You have been taught to fear what leaves you. They told you that when something passes you by, it means you missed your chance, missed your blessing, missed the one thing that could have made your life complete. But if that were true, why do some losses bring peace later? Why do some closed doors protect you from pain you could not see yet? Why do some people leave, and somehow your soul begins to breathe again? The truth is, nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by. Not because life always gives you what you want, but because what is truly aligned with your path cannot be destroyed by delay, distance, rejection, silence, or change. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering does not begin when something leaves. Suffering begins when the mind refuses to release what has already changed. We cling because we are afraid that if this person goes, no one better will come. If this dream fails, life has forgotten us. If this door closes, there will be no other way. But life is not as small as fear makes it seem. Sometimes what passes you by was never meant to stay. Sometimes what slips from your hands is not a punishment, but a quiet form of protection. Sometimes what you call rejection is only redirection wearing a painful face. Tonight, as you listen to these teachings, something inside you will begin to soften. The panic to hold on will lose its power. The questions that have been circling your mind will grow quieter, and you will start to see that letting go is not losing the life meant for you. It is making space for it. You will understand that what is real does not need to be chased with fear, begged for in desperation, or forced to remain by anxiety. What belongs to your path will meet you with clarity, with peace, and with timing your heart is ready to receive. This is not just a message about destiny. This is a lesson in trust, patience, surrender, and the deep peace of knowing that what is truly yours cannot miss you, and what misses you was never the final answer. Are you ready? Let us begin. And now that we have opened the door to that deeper kind of peace, the kind that does not shake every time life changes its mind, we have to begin with the question most people carry quietly inside them. It is the question that comes at night when the room is silent. It comes after someone leaves, after an opportunity disappears, after a prayer seems unanswered, after life refuses to move according to your plan. You ask yourself, was this meant for me? And behind that question, there is often another question hiding underneath it. Am I safe? Am I forgotten? Did I lose the one thing I was supposed to have? There is a kind of fear that does not always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like faith. Sometimes it sounds like destiny. Sometimes it hides behind beautiful phrases like, "What is meant for me will find me." And yes, there is comfort in that. There is truth in it too. But if we are not careful, we can use destiny like a blanket to cover anxiety instead of actually healing it. We can repeat the words, not because we trust life, but because we are terrified that life may not choose us. We can say, "What is meant for me will come," while secretly checking every sign, every silence, every delay, every message, every closed door, trying to force the future to reassure us. That is where the hidden anxiety begins. It does not begin with the thing you lost. It begins with the belief that you must know today what life is still unfolding slowly. There is a pain that comes from not knowing if that person will return, not knowing if the dream will work, not knowing if the door that closed was protection or rejection, not knowing if the delay is a lesson, a warning, or simply life taking its own time. And because the mind hates uncertainty, it starts building stories. It says, maybe I did something wrong. Then it says, maybe I missed my chance. Then it says, maybe nothing good is coming. Before you know it, you are not living in the present anymore. You are living inside a courtroom in your own head, trying to judge a future that has not arrived. Buddhist wisdom invites us to look at this gently but honestly. It teaches that much of our suffering comes from craving certainty in a world that is built on change. We want life to give us a written guarantee. We want a sign that says, "Do not worry, this is yours." We want every person, every dream, every opportunity, every season to tell us exactly where it is going before we allow ourselves to rest. But life does not always speak that way. Life often speaks through unfolding, through waiting, through loss, through silence, through the slow revealing of what could not be understood at the beginning. And that is hard because the mind wants answers faster than wisdom can grow. You may have noticed this in your own life. Something happens, and immediately the mind runs ahead. Someone stops calling, and the mind begins writing an entire story. A plan fails, and the mind says, "This is the end." A door does not open, and the mind says, "I am being punished." But is that always true? Or is it possible that the mind is simply afraid of empty space? Is it possible that the mind would rather create a painful explanation than sit quietly with no explanation at all? This is why people often use destiny as a way to calm fear. When life feels uncertain, saying, "If it is meant for me, it will come," can feel like medicine. But Buddhist teaching asks us to go deeper. It asks, are you saying this from trust, or are you saying this because you cannot bear not knowing? There is a big difference. One brings peace, the other creates another form of clinging. When you truly trust, your body softens, your breath slows, you stop trying to control every movement of life. You still care, you still act wisely, you still show up, but you are not shaking inside. You are not begging the universe for proof every 5 minutes. You are not reading meaning into every small delay. You are not treating silence like a weapon pointed at your heart. You are able to say, "I do not know yet, but I can still be here. I can still breathe. I can still live today." But when destiny is used to cover anxiety, the words may sound peaceful while the heart is still restless. You say, "What is meant for me will not pass me by." But then you keep checking, waiting, obsessing, forcing, comparing, fearing. You are not really resting in trust. You are trying to use a spiritual sentence to control the pain of uncertainty. And this is where Buddhist wisdom becomes very practical. It does not ask you to pretend you are calm. It asks you to notice where you are not calm. It asks you to bring awareness to the place inside you that keeps needing life to promise you everything before you can feel safe. Because the real question is not only, is this meant for me? The deeper question is, why do I feel like I cannot be okay unless I know? That question can change your life. Many people do not suffer only because they lost something. They suffer because they believe the loss has decided their worth. They think, if this person did not choose me, maybe I am not enough. They think, if this opportunity passed me by, maybe I am behind in life. They think, if this dream is delayed, maybe I have failed. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that events are not personal verdicts. A closed door is not always a judgment. A delay is not always rejection. A person leaving is not always proof that you were unlovable. Sometimes conditions simply change. Sometimes what you wanted depended on many moving parts you could not see. Sometimes life is not punishing you. It is just moving according to causes, conditions, timing, choices, and consequences. This is one of the most freeing teachings in Buddhism. Things arise because of conditions, and things pass away because conditions change. A flower blooms when the soil, sunlight, water, and season come together. It does not bloom because you screamed at it. It does not bloom because you were anxious enough. It does not bloom because you kept checking the ground every hour. It blooms when the conditions are right. And if the conditions are not right, forcing does not create a flower. It only creates frustration. Your life is not so different. Some things need the right conditions to stay. Some relationships need maturity, honesty, readiness, respect, and shared direction. Some dreams need discipline, timing, preparation, and emotional strength. Some doors need you to become someone who can walk through them without losing yourself. And sometimes, when something does not happen now, it does not mean it will never happen. It may mean the conditions are not complete. It may mean your heart is still being trained. It may mean your mind is still too attached to the outcome. It may mean life is protecting you from receiving something before you are ready to hold it with wisdom. But anxiety does not like that answer. Anxiety wants certainty now. Anxiety says, "Tell me today, show me today, prove it today." Anxiety does not want to wait for conditions. It wants control. And because control feels powerful for a moment, we confuse it with peace. We think if we can just know the outcome, we will finally relax. But have you noticed that even when you get one answer, the mind quickly asks for another? If someone replies, you wonder what the reply means. If a door opens, you worry whether it will stay open. If a dream begins to work, you fear it may collapse. This is because anxiety is never fully satisfied by information. It always wants more. It feeds on certainty, but it is never full. That is why real peace cannot come from forcing certainty. Real peace has to come from changing your relationship with uncertainty. This does not mean you become passive. It does not mean you sit back and do nothing. Buddhism is not teaching helplessness. It is teaching wise effort. You do what is yours to do. You speak honestly. You prepare well. You show up with integrity. You plant the seed. You water the soil. You open your hand. But after that, you stop trying to control the sun, the rain, and the season. You understand that your role is effort, not ownership of the outcome. There is a quiet dignity in that. A person who lives this way becomes harder to break. Not because nothing hurts them, but because they no longer turn every uncertainty into a threat. They can want something without worshipping it. They can love someone without making that person the landlord of their peace. They can work toward a dream without believing their whole identity will collapse if it takes longer than expected. They can say, "I care deeply, but I will not destroy myself trying to force what is not ready." That is the beginning of freedom. The hidden anxiety behind what is meant for me often comes from a fear of being left behind by life. You look around and see other people moving forward. Someone is getting married. Someone is buying a house. Someone is building a career. Someone is being chosen, promoted, loved, celebrated, remembered. And quietly, a small voice inside you says, "What about me?" You may not say it out loud, but you feel it. You feel that ache of comparison. You wonder if life has skipped your name. You wonder if the things meant for you somehow went to someone else. But Buddhist wisdom would ask you to pause and look carefully. Are you seeing reality, or are you seeing your fear through other people's lives? Because comparison is one of anxiety's favorite disguises. It makes you believe that someone else's timing is proof that your timing is wrong. It makes you look at another person's harvest and feel ashamed of your own seed. But no two lives unfold under the exact same conditions. No two hearts carry the same karma, wounds, lessons, responsibilities, or path. What is blooming for someone else may not be the thing your life is asking you to grow right now. There are seasons where life gives you achievement. There are seasons where life gives you healing. There are seasons where life gives you solitude. There are seasons where life gives you discipline. There are seasons where life removes distractions so you can finally meet yourself. If you judge a healing season by the standards of a harvest season, you will think you are failing when you are actually being restored. This is why the phrase, "Nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by," must not become a reason to sit in fear, waiting for life to prove your value. It should become a reminder to return to yourself, to return to the present, to return to what can be done now, to return to the breath, to return to the simple truth that you do not need to solve your entire future before you live this day well. The mind often says, "I need to know what will happen so I can relax." But the path of wisdom says, "Learn to relax even while you do not know." That is not easy. That is a practice. And in Buddhism, practice matters more than theory. Anyone can speak beautiful words about surrender when life is giving them what they want. The real practice begins when the answer is delayed, when the message does not come, when the plan changes, when your hands are empty, when you have to sit with the discomfort of not knowing and still choose not to become bitter, desperate, or hard. This is where mindfulness becomes a shelter. Mindfulness does not always remove the question, but it stops the question from swallowing your whole life. It teaches you to notice, there is fear in me right now, not I am fear, not my life is ruined, not nothing good will happen, just there is fear. This small shift matters. When you can observe fear, you are no longer completely controlled by it. You create space between yourself and the storm. You stop believing every thought just because it is loud. A thought may say, "You missed your chance." Mindfulness says, "That is a thought." A thought may say, "You will never find better." Mindfulness says, "That is fear speaking." A thought may say, "You need an answer now." Mindfulness says, "The body is uncomfortable with uncertainty." And slowly, you begin to see that not every thought deserves to become a prophecy. Some thoughts are only old wounds trying to protect you in outdated ways. This is very important because many people mistake anxiety for intuition. Anxiety rushes, intuition is quiet. Anxiety panics, intuition clarifies. Anxiety makes you feel trapped. Intuition gives you a simple knowing without violence inside your chest. Anxiety says, "Do something now or everything will fall apart." Intuition says, "Pay attention." Anxiety demands certainty. Intuition accepts truth. When you are attached to an outcome, it becomes difficult to hear clearly, because fear starts speaking in the language of guidance. You may think life is warning you, when really your nervous system is just afraid of being disappointed again. That is why Buddhist letting go begins with seeing clearly, not forcing yourself to stop caring, not pretending you are above desire, not shaming yourself for wanting love, success, stability, or answers. It begins with honesty. I want this. I am afraid to lose it. I do not know what will happen. I am trying to control life because I feel unsafe. That kind of honesty is powerful. It brings the hidden anxiety into the light, and anything brought into the light begins to lose its secret power over you. You do not have to punish yourself for being afraid. Fear is human. Wanting certainty is human. Wanting to know whether something is meant for you is human. The problem is not that the question appears. The problem begins when the question becomes your home, when you live inside it day after day, when you stop eating with peace, sleeping with peace, working with peace, praying with peace, because your whole inner world is waiting for one answer. That is when the mind becomes a cage. Buddhist wisdom does not say, never desire. It says, understand desire. Look at what your desire is doing to you. Is it opening your heart or shrinking your life? Is it helping you act with wisdom or making you abandon your dignity? Is it bringing patience or panic? Is it connected to love or is it connected to fear? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to free you, because sometimes what we call destiny is really attachment wearing spiritual clothing. You may say, but I feel it so strongly. Surely that must mean it is meant for me. But intensity is not always truth. Sometimes intensity is a wound being touched. Sometimes the thing that feels magnetic is not aligned with your peace. It is familiar to your pain. Sometimes you want something deeply because it matches an old pattern, not because it belongs in your future. This is why Buddhism teaches observation before action. Sit with the feeling, watch it. Do not immediately obey it. Do not immediately fight it. Let it reveal its nature. A wholesome desire may remain steady even when you are calm. An anxious attachment often becomes weaker when you stop feeding it with fantasy. This is a lesson many people learn through heartbreak. They believed someone was meant for them because the feeling was powerful, the connection was intense, the longing was deep. The thought of losing them felt unbearable. But later, after the storm passed, they looked back and realized that what they called love was mixed with fear, hunger, insecurity, and the need to be chosen. They were not only holding the person, they were holding the version of themselves they thought that person would finally prove. If they choose me, I am enough. If they stay, I am safe. If this works, my life makes sense. That is too much weight to place on another human being. Nothing truly meant for you will require you to abandon yourself to keep it. Nothing truly meant for you will demand that your peace be sacrificed as payment. What is aligned with your path may still challenge you, but it will not require constant self-betrayal. It may stretch you, but it will not make you disappear. It may ask for patience, but it will not feed on your panic. When you understand this, the question changes. Instead of asking, "Is this meant for me?" you begin asking, "Who am I becoming while I hold on to this?" That question is more honest. Some people hold on to a dream and become disciplined, humble, focused, and courageous. That is beautiful. Others hold on to a dream and become jealous, bitter, exhausted, and blind to everything else. Some people love someone and become kinder, wiser, more open, more grounded. Others love someone and become anxious, suspicious, dependent, and disconnected from themselves. The object of desire is not the only thing that matters. The state of your heart matters too. Buddhist teaching always brings us back to the mind, because the mind colors the world. Two people can face the same uncertainty. One becomes patient and attentive, the other becomes restless and destructive. The difference is not always the situation. Sometimes it is the relationship they have with their own thoughts. If your mind believes uncertainty is danger, every delay will feel like an attack. If your mind learns that uncertainty is part of life, every delay becomes something you can meet with steadiness. This does not mean you will never cry. It does not mean you will never miss what left. It does not mean your hands will not tremble when you release something you loved. Letting go is not cold. It is not emotionless. It is not pretending the heart is made of stone. Letting go means you stop making your suffering sacred. You stop saying, "Because I hurt, I must hold on." You stop using pain as proof that something belongs to you. Pain proves that you are human. It does not always prove that something is meant to stay. Sometimes the hidden anxiety behind destiny is really the fear of emptiness. You do not only fear losing the person, you fear the silence after they leave. You do not only fear missing the opportunity, you fear not knowing who you are without chasing it. You do not only fear the closed door, you fear standing in the hallway with nothing to distract you from yourself. But emptiness is not always the enemy. In Buddhism, emptiness can become a doorway. When something leaves, space appears. At first, that space feels unbearable because you were used to filling it with hope, worry, planning, longing, or control. But if you do not rush to fill it, something else begins to appear there. Clarity, self-respect, rest, insight, a quieter kind of strength. This is why you do not need every answer today. Some answers would not help you yet because you are not ready to understand them without turning them into another form of attachment. Some answers only make sense after your emotions settle. Some truths can only be received by a calmer version of you. Have you ever looked back at something that once broke your heart and finally understood why it could not continue? At the time, you wanted an explanation immediately. You wanted life to defend itself. You wanted the pain to make sense. But months or years later, you saw what you could not see then. You saw the hidden mismatch, the quiet warning signs, the way you were shrinking, the way your desire was louder than your wisdom. That is why patience is not weakness. Patience is not doing nothing. Patience is allowing reality enough time to reveal itself fully. A restless mind tears open the seed to check if it is growing. A patient mind waters it and waits. This is not easy in a world that trains you to demand instant answers. We live in a time where messages are instant, results are measured quickly, and silence feels offensive. But the soul does not grow by the same speed as technology. Healing takes time, wisdom takes time, trust takes time. Some blessings take time because they are not only bringing you something, they are making you ready to receive it without losing balance. The phrase, "what is meant for me," becomes healthier when it is joined with responsibility. It is not an excuse to avoid effort. It is not a reason to ignore your part. It does not mean you sit in your room and expect life to deliver everything to your door. Buddhist wisdom teaches right effort. This means you act with sincerity, discipline, and care, but you do not poison your effort with desperation. You send the message, but you do not beg for love. You apply for the opportunity, but you do not decide your worth by the answer. You work on the dream, but you do not hate your present life while waiting for it to grow. You show up fully, then release the demand that life must respond exactly how your fear wants. That kind of living is rare. Most people either cling or collapse. They either grip life too tightly or pretend they do not care at all. But the middle path is different. It says, care deeply, but do not cling blindly. Work sincerely, but do not worship outcomes. Love fully, but do not lose yourself. Hope gently, but do not make hope another chain. This is where peace begins to feel possible. Not because you finally know everything, but because you no longer need to know everything before you can breathe. You begin to understand that today has its own work. Today asks you to return to your body, to wash the cup, to answer what can be answered, to rest when you are tired, to speak truth without forcing response, to do the next honest thing, to stop turning the future into a battlefield before you even arrive there. There is deep mercy in living one day at a time. Anxiety wants the whole map. Wisdom asks for the next step. Anxiety wants proof that nothing will hurt. Wisdom teaches you that even if pain comes, you can meet it without abandoning yourself. Anxiety wants life to promise that nothing will pass you by. Wisdom says, even if something passes, I will learn. I will grow. I will not turn one ending into the death of my entire future. And this is the heart of it. Nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by, but you must also understand what meant for you really means. It does not always mean what your ego wants. It does not always mean what your fear demands. It does not always mean what your lonely heart is attached to. What is meant for you is what supports your awakening, your growth, your peace, your truth, your becoming. Sometimes that is a gift arriving. Sometimes it is a person staying. Sometimes it is a door opening. But sometimes it is a loss that teaches you to stop begging. Sometimes it is a delay that teaches you patience. Sometimes it is silence that teaches you to listen inward. Sometimes it is rejection that returns you to your dignity. When you begin to see life this way, the question loses some of its sharpness. You no longer ask, "Is this meant for me?" with panic in your chest. You ask it with openness. You allow life to answer through peace, through consistency, through conditions, through your own inner knowing. You stop trying to force a yes from something that keeps showing you no. You stop treating confusion as romance. You stop mistaking anxiety for destiny. You stop chasing signs while ignoring reality. And slowly, a different strength rises in you. The strength to wait without shrinking. The strength to love without clinging. The strength to desire without becoming desperate. The strength to be unsure without falling apart. This is not the kind of strength that makes noise. It is quiet. It is steady. It is the strength of someone who has stopped arguing with every change and started listening to what life is teaching. So when you say, "Nothing truly meant for me will ever pass me by," let it not be a sentence you use to escape fear. Let it become a practice. Let it remind you to release the grip in your chest. Let it remind you that you do not need to chase what is already aligned with your path in panic. Let it remind you that you can act with wisdom today without demanding that tomorrow explain itself. Let it remind you that uncertainty is not proof that life has abandoned you. Sometimes uncertainty is simply the space where trust is being born. And maybe tonight, the answer you need is not whether that one thing will return, whether that one door will open, whether that one dream will unfold exactly as planned. Maybe the answer is simpler and deeper than that. Maybe the answer is that you are allowed to be at peace before the outcome arrives. You are allowed to breathe before everything makes sense. You are allowed to live while the future is still hidden. You are allowed to trust that what is real for your path does not need your fear to find you. Because the life meant for you is not built by panic. It is met through presence. It is recognized through peace. It is received by hands that are no longer closed around what was never meant to stay. And once you begin to understand that you do not need every answer today, another truth quietly comes forward. It is not always the absence of an answer that hurts you. Sometimes it is the tightness of your own grip. Sometimes life places something beautiful in your hands, but fear makes you squeeze it so hard that the beauty begins to lose its shape. A person can enter your life and bring warmth, but if you hold them with panic, love begins to feel like pressure. A dream can open your heart, but if you turn it into the only proof that your life matters, the dream becomes heavy. Even a blessing can become painful when your peace depends on keeping it exactly as it is. This is where many people suffer quietly. They think the problem is that the thing they want is wrong, when the deeper problem is the fear they have wrapped around it. Something can be good, but the way you cling to it can make it feel unsafe. Something can be aligned, but your anxiety can turn it into a burden. Something can be meant to bless your life, but if you try to own it, control it, and force it to stay in one form forever, you begin to suffer inside the very thing you once prayed for. There is a strange sadness in finally receiving something and still not feeling free. You get the attention, but now you fear losing it. You get the opportunity, but now you worry it will disappear. You get the relationship, but now every silence feels dangerous. You get the open door, but now you are afraid one mistake will close it. You thought having it would bring peace, but instead, it awakened a new fear. This is how clinging works. It does not only attach to what is absent, it can attach to what is present too, and when it does, it whispers, "Now that you have this, you must never lose it." That whisper is what makes the right thing feel wrong. Buddhist wisdom teaches that attachment is not the same as love, care, or commitment. Attachment is the fear-based grip that says, "I cannot be okay unless this stays the way I want." Love gives room to breathe. Attachment closes the room and locks the door. Love sees the other person, the dream, the moment, or the opportunity as something to honor. Attachment sees it as something to possess. Love can be present. Attachment is always reaching ahead, trying to secure tomorrow before tomorrow comes. And because attachment is always afraid, it cannot truly enjoy what it holds. This is why someone can be in a relationship and still feel lonely. They are not fully with the person. They are with their fear of losing the person. They are studying every tone, every delay, every change in energy. They are not listening with openness. They are listening for danger. They are not resting in connection. They are guarding against abandonment. So even when love is present, the nervous system does not feel loved. It feels threatened. And the heart becomes tired, not because love is wrong, but because clinging has turned love into survival. This can happen with dreams too. A person may begin with a pure dream. They want to create, serve, build, grow, or become better. At first, the dream gives them energy. It wakes up something alive inside them. But little by little, if they begin to cling, the dream changes. It stops being a path and becomes a test of worth. Every delay becomes humiliation. Every mistake becomes proof of failure. Every person ahead of them becomes an enemy in their mind. What once made them feel inspired now makes them feel small. The dream did not become wrong. The grip became painful. This is one of the hidden traps of desire. Desire can begin as a spark, but attachment turns it into a chain. The spark says, "Move toward this." The chain says, "You are nothing without this." The spark brings energy. The chain brings fear. The spark invites effort. The chain demands obsession. And if you do not notice the difference, you may think your suffering means you should try harder, when really, your suffering is telling you to loosen your grip. There is a simple sign to watch for. When something is healthy for you, it may challenge you, but it does not constantly make you abandon your center. It may ask you to grow, but it does not make you live in panic. It may stretch your patience, but it does not require you to destroy your peace every day just to keep it alive. What is truly aligned with your life does not need you to become frantic to protect it. It will need care, yes. It will need honesty, effort, maturity, and attention, but it will not need fear as its foundation. Fear can imitate devotion. It can say, "I am only holding on because I care." But caring has a different energy. Caring is steady. Caring is willing to listen. Caring is able to make wise choices even when emotions are strong. Fear is different. Fear grips. Fear monitors. Fear over-explains. Fear begs. Fear cannot rest. Fear says, "If I stop pushing, everything will disappear." But anything that can only survive through panic is not giving you peace. It is keeping you trapped. This is why clinging makes even good things feel heavy. The mind begins to create imaginary losses before they happen. You may be sitting beside someone you love, but instead of enjoying that moment, your mind is already asking, "What if they leave?" You may be working on something meaningful, but instead of giving your best today, your mind is already asking, "What if this fails?" You may have a rare chance in front of you, but instead of honoring it, your mind is calculating every possible way it could go wrong. You are physically present, but emotionally, you are living at the funeral of a future that has not even died. And the sad thing is, the more you cling, the less you can receive. A closed fist cannot feel the softness of what it holds. It only feels tension. In the same way, a clinging heart cannot enjoy love. It cannot enjoy growth. It cannot enjoy success. It cannot enjoy the present moment. It is too busy trying not to lose it. Buddhist teachings often point us back to the nature of impermanence. Everything changes, not as a threat, but as a truth. Relationships change, bodies change, seasons change, work changes, feelings change, desires change. Even the version of you who wanted something so badly may change. Clinging suffers because it secretly demands that life stop moving. It wants a moment to become permanent. It wants a person to remain exactly as they were when they made you feel safe. It wants an opportunity to guarantee your future. but life cannot be frozen without becoming lifeless. A flower is beautiful partly because it does not last forever. A sunset touches the heart because it is passing. A kind conversation matters because it happens in a moment that will not repeat in the exact same way. This does not make life meaningless. It makes life precious. But attachment cannot see preciousness. Attachment only sees threat. It says, because this can change, I must hold it tighter. Wisdom says, because this can change, I must be fully here while it is here. That is a different way to live. When you stop clinging, you do not love less. You love more clearly. You no longer turn the other person into your emotional property. You no longer turn the dream into your identity. You no longer turn the outcome into the judge of your worth. You allow things to be alive instead of forcing them to become your security blanket. You begin to understand that real connection cannot breathe under control. Real purpose cannot grow under obsession. Real peace cannot be built on the fear of loss. There are people who hold relationships like a bird in their hands. If they grip too tightly, they harm what they love. If they open their hands completely with no care, the bird may fly away without being sheltered. The middle way is gentle holding, present, caring, respectful, but not possessive. This is what non-attachment feels like in real life. It is not coldness, it is not neglect, it is not pretending you do not care. It is holding with enough love that the thing can breathe, and enough wisdom that your whole life does not collapse if it changes. Many people misunderstand this. They think letting go means walking away from everything, but sometimes letting go means staying without fear. It means loving without trying to control. It means working without poisoning yourself with pressure. It means hoping without demanding. It means giving your best without turning the result into a verdict on your soul. You can be committed and still unattached. You can be passionate and still peaceful. You can care deeply and still remain free inside. This is not easy because clinging often comes from old wounds. A person who was abandoned may cling because silence feels like danger. A person who was rejected may cling because being chosen feels like oxygen. A person who grew up without stability may cling to money, plans, or status because uncertainty feels unbearable. A person who was made to feel invisible may cling to achievement because success feels like proof they exist. So when we talk about clinging, we must speak with compassion. People do not cling because they are weak. They cling because something inside them is scared. But compassion does not mean we allow fear to rule our lives. It means we meet fear gently while teaching it a new way to be safe. You do not heal clinging by insulting yourself. You heal it by understanding what part of you believes it will not survive loss. You ask, what am I afraid will happen if I loosen my grip? That question opens a hidden door. Maybe you are afraid you will be forgotten. Maybe you are afraid there will be no second chance. Maybe you are afraid your life will become empty. Maybe you are afraid that without this one thing, you will have to face a deeper loneliness inside you. Once you see the fear clearly, you can stop confusing the object with the wound. You may think, I need this person. But the deeper truth may be, I need to feel safe. You may think, I need this success. But underneath it may be, I need to feel worthy. You may think, I need this plan to work. But underneath it may be, I need to feel that my life is not falling apart. When you see the real need, you can begin healing at the root instead of clinging to the branch. This is where Buddhist practice becomes very powerful. It teaches you to watch craving as it rises, not to obey it immediately, not to fight it violently, just watch. You feel the urge to text again, explain again, check again, force again, prove again. Instead of becoming the urge, you observe it, you breathe, you notice the heat in the body, the tightness in the chest, the story in the mind. you say, clinging is present. That simple awareness creates space, and in that space you are no longer a prisoner of the impulse. At first, this space may last only a few seconds. That is enough. A few seconds of awareness can stop you from acting out of fear. A few seconds can keep you from sending the message that betrays your dignity. A few seconds can keep you from making a decision just to escape discomfort. A few seconds can remind you that you are not required to obey every anxious thought. Over time, those few seconds become strength. They become self-respect. They become freedom. You begin to see that peace is not found by forcing life to stay still. Peace is found by becoming steady while life moves. This changes the way you relate to blessings. Instead of thinking, now that I have this, I must protect it at all costs, you begin to think, now that this is here, let me honor it with presence. That is a softer way to live. You can enjoy the person in front of you without demanding that they heal every wound you carry. You can work on your dream without turning each result into emotional punishment. You can receive good things without immediately fearing they will be taken away. You can let life be good without preparing for disaster every moment. Some people are so used to losing that even when something good comes, they cannot relax. They keep waiting for the pain. They keep looking for the crack. They keep expecting the change in tone, the closed door, the disappointment. And because they are bracing for loss, they cannot experience the blessing. Their body is present, but their spirit is wearing armor. This is another way clinging makes the right thing feel wrong. It does not allow joy to enter cleanly. It mixes every gift with fear. Buddhist wisdom asks us to notice how the mind creates suffering around pleasure. Pleasure itself is not the enemy. Beauty is not the enemy. Love is not the enemy. Success is not the enemy. The suffering begins when the mind says, this must stay forever. This must define me. This must never change. I must control this. In that moment, the sweet thing becomes a source of anxiety. The hand that receives becomes a fist. Think about water. If you cup your hands gently, you can hold enough to drink. But if you squeeze your hands too tightly, the water escapes faster. Many people treat life this way. They grip what they love so tightly that they push it away, exhaust it, or poison it with fear. Then they say, see, everything leaves me. But sometimes what left was not rejecting love. It was escaping pressure. Sometimes the dream did not die because it was wrong. It died because obsession removed the joy needed to sustain it. Sometimes the opportunity became painful because it was turned into a desperate rescue mission for the ego. What is meant for you does not mean what you can trap. It means what can meet you in truth. A relationship that is meant for you must have space for honesty, not just fear of losing each other. A purpose that is meant for you must have space for growth, not just punishment when progress is slow. A blessing that is meant for you must have space to be human, imperfect, changing, and alive. If your grip cannot allow that, you will suffer even in the presence of good things. This is why inner security matters. Without inner security, every external blessing becomes unstable. If your peace depends only on someone's behavior, your peace will rise and fall with their mood. If your worth depends only on success, your worth will rise and fall with numbers, praise, and results. If your hope depends only on one path, your hope will collapse whenever that path bends. Inner security does not mean you need nothing. It means your deepest self is not destroyed by change. You can be touched by life without being shattered by every movement of it. To build this, you must learn to return to yourself. Not in a selfish way, but in a grounded way. Return to your breath. Return to your values. Return to your daily discipline. Return to the small things that remind you that you exist beyond what you are trying to hold. Cook a meal, take a walk, sit in silence, clean your space, read something that steadies your mind, speak to yourself with kindness, do what is yours to do today. These ordinary acts may not look spiritual from the outside, but they teach the body that life continues even when the mind is afraid. This is important because clinging often makes your world smaller. Your attention narrows. One person becomes the whole sky. One dream becomes the whole future. One outcome becomes the whole meaning of your existence. When that happens, you lose contact with the rest of life. You stop noticing the people who care for you. You stop seeing small joys. You stop hearing your own needs. You stop respecting your limits. You become spiritually hungry, and then you ask one thing to feed your entire soul. Nothing outside you can carry that much weight forever. A person can love you, but they cannot become your only source of safety. A job can support you, but it cannot become your only identity. A dream can inspire you, but it cannot become the only reason you believe your life matters. When you ask one thing to become everything, you turn it into a burden, and then even if it stays, it may start to feel heavy. Not because it is bad, but because you have placed your entire inner world on its back. Buddhist letting go teaches balance. It teaches you to spread your roots deeper than one outcome. A tree with only one shallow root falls easily. A tree with many deep roots can bend with the wind. Your roots are your values: awareness, compassion, patience, discipline, truth, and connection to the present moment. When these roots grow, you can love without becoming desperate. You can pursue without becoming possessed. You can receive without fearing every change. You can let something be important without making it your only oxygen. There is also another painful truth. Clinging can make you ignore signs that something is no longer healthy. When you are attached, you may call confusion a challenge. You may call disrespect a lesson. You may call neglect a test of patience. You may call constant anxiety a deep connection. You may keep saying, "Maybe this is meant for me," because you do not want to face what reality is showing you. But Buddhist wisdom asks us to respect what is present, not only what we hope could be present. Reality is a teacher, but many people keep arguing with it. They want potential to be enough. They want memories to be enough. They want promises to be enough. But what is actually happening? Is there mutual care? Is there honesty? Is there consistency? Is there peace? Is there room for your dignity? Is there growth? Is there kindness? Is there right effort from both sides? These questions matter. Clinging avoids them because the answers may hurt. Wisdom asks them because truth is kinder than illusion in the long run. Sometimes what makes the right thing feel wrong is not that the thing is wrong, but that your relationship with it is driven by fear. But other times, clinging makes the wrong thing look right because you are too attached to let reality speak. This is why you must examine not only the object, but the energy. Does this connection bring out your honesty or your insecurity? Does this dream bring out your discipline or your self-hatred? Does this opportunity ask you to grow, or does it ask you to abandon your health, values, and peace? The answer may not come all at once, but your body and mind often give clues. Peace does not always mean easy. Sometimes peace feels like a hard truth you no longer need to fight. Panic does not always mean passion. Sometimes panic is the body telling you that you are trying to hold something in a way that harms you. Learn to tell the difference. The heart can be excited and still peaceful. The mind can be challenged and still clear. The body can feel nervous before growth, but it should not live in constant dread. What is aligned with your life may require courage, but it will not require you to live in continuous emotional emergency. This is why what is truly meant for you does not require panic to keep it. Panic may push for a while, but it cannot sustain what is wholesome. Panic burns too hot. It drains wisdom. It makes you reactive. It causes you to speak from fear, decide from fear, and interpret everything through fear. A life built by panic may look busy, but inside it is unstable. A life built by peace may move slower, but it grows stronger roots. You may ask, but what if I loosen my grip and lose it? This is the question that keeps many people trapped. But look closely. If something can only remain because you are anxious, forcing, begging, performing, or betraying yourself, what are you truly keeping? Are you keeping love, or are you keeping a struggle? Are you keeping purpose, or are you keeping pressure? Are you keeping a blessing, or are you keeping an identity you are afraid to release? Letting go of panic does not mean you throw away what matters. It means you stop feeding it with fear. You can still nurture the relationship. You can still work hard. You can still show up. You can still care, but your energy changes. You stop trying to squeeze certainty from life. You stop demanding that the present become a contract for the future. You stop treating every change as danger. You start trusting that what is healthy will not be destroyed by your calmness. In fact, many good things grow better in calmness than they ever could in fear. Think of a garden. If you keep digging up the roots to check whether the plant is growing, you damage what you are trying to protect. If you flood it with too much water because you are afraid it will dry out, you drown it. If you stand over it every minute, demanding fruit before the season, you exhaust yourself and still cannot force the harvest. A wise gardener cares, but does not panic, waters, but does not drown, waits, but does not abandon, trusts the process, but still shows up. This is the kind of relationship we are invited to have with life. The same is true for love. Love needs attention, but also air. It needs honesty, but also trust. It needs closeness, but also respect for each person's inner world. When clinging enters, love becomes surveillance. You start watching for proof instead of offering presence. You start needing constant reassurance, not because reassurance is always wrong, but because the wound inside you has no bottom. No amount of reassurance feels enough when fear is the one receiving it. This is why healing must happen within you too. Otherwise, even the most caring person will feel like they are pouring water into a cracked cup. The practice is not to shame yourself for needing reassurance. The practice is to become curious about the part of you that cannot hold reassurance for long. What story is it carrying? When did it learn that love disappears without warning? When did it learn that success can be taken away? When did it learn that rest is unsafe? When did it learn that you must work hard to deserve what should come with kindness? These questions lead you inward, and inward is where real freedom begins. Because clinging is rarely just about the present. It is usually the past reaching into the present, trying to prevent old pain from happening again. But the past cannot protect you by controlling the future. It can only repeat itself through fear until awareness interrupts the pattern. When you notice, I am not responding only to this moment. I am responding to an old wound. Something softens. You stop making the current person responsible for every person who left. You stop making the current opportunity responsible for every door that closed. You stop making the current delay responsible for every time life disappointed you. This is maturity. Not emotional numbness, not pretending nothing affects you, but being able to say, this fear is old. This moment may not be the enemy. I can respond with wisdom instead of reacting from pain. When you live this way, you begin to experience blessings differently. You no longer squeeze them for identity. You enjoy them with gratitude. You no longer demand that they save you. You meet them with wholeness. You no longer turn them into proof that life loves you. You understand that life is already happening through each breath, each lesson, each opening, each closing. Gratitude replaces possession. Presence replaces panic. Trust replaces control. This does not happen overnight. The habit of clinging may return many times. One quiet moment can awaken fear again. One delay can bring back the old urge to grip. One uncertain outcome can make your mind run in circles, but each time you notice and return, you are training in freedom. You are teaching yourself, I can care without clinging. I can want without worshipping. I can love without losing myself. I can work without becoming a slave to results. I can hold life gently. And that gentle holding is powerful. It allows you to see clearly. It allows you to receive fully. It allows you to let things move as they must. It allows what is real to stay without being suffocated, and what is not real to leave without destroying you. This is the kind of peace that does not need to chase. It does not need to beg. It does not need to perform. It simply stands in truth and says, I will honor what is here, and I will not imprison it with fear. So if something in your life feels heavy right now, ask yourself gently, is this thing wrong for me, or am I holding it in a way that hurts? That question may reveal more than you expect. Maybe you need to loosen control. Maybe you need to rest. Maybe you need to speak honestly. Maybe you need to stop turning a blessing into a test. Maybe you need to stop calling panic love. Maybe you need to give life room to show you what can stay without being forced. And if it cannot stay without force, let that teach you too, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Because what is meant for your path will not require you to live with your soul clenched. It will not ask you to shrink into fear. It will not demand that you become someone you do not recognize. It will meet your effort with some form of truth. It will carry peace somewhere inside it, even if the path is not easy. This is why clinging must be understood before deeper letting go can begin. Because you cannot release what you still believe you must possess to survive. You cannot trust life while gripping one outcome as your only source of safety. You cannot feel the rightness of what is aligned with you if your fear keeps turning every gift into a threat. The hand must soften, the breath must return. The mind must learn that love is not ownership, effort is not panic, and destiny is not control. Nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by, but you may not recognize it if your eyes are clouded by fear. You may not enjoy it if your hands are closed around it too tightly. You may not keep it in a healthy way if you believe panic is the price of love. So let life teach you how to hold what matters with grace. Hold it with care, but not possession. Hold it with gratitude, but not desperation. Hold it with presence, but not fear. Because what is truly aligned with your life does not need your anxiety to survive. It needs your honesty, your patience, your wisdom, and your open heart. And when you learn to hold life this way, even uncertainty becomes softer. Even love becomes cleaner. Even dreams become lighter. And slowly, what once felt like a burden begins to feel like a blessing again. And once you learn that what is truly aligned with your life does not need panic to survive, another deeper truth begins to rise quietly in the heart. Sometimes, the thing you are trying so hard not to lose is the very thing life is trying to release you from. Sometimes your hands are tired because you have been holding a weight that was never meant to travel with you this far. Sometimes what feels like loss in the moment is not life taking from you, but life removing what your fear would have kept. There are endings that feel cruel when they happen. A person walks away, a door closes, a dream collapses, a plan breaks apart, and your mind immediately calls it punishment. You ask, why did this happen to me? You ask, what did I do wrong? You ask, why would life bring something close only to take it away? And because pain is loud, it becomes easy to believe that every ending is an attack. But Buddhist wisdom invites you to look again, not quickly, not with forced positivity, not by pretending your heart does not hurt, but with the slow honesty that says, maybe I did not only lose this, maybe I was released from something I could not yet understand. That thought may not comfort you immediately, because when the heart is fresh with pain, it does not want philosophy. It wants the person back. It wants the chance back. It wants the old plan back. It wants the life it recognized. But time has a strange way of revealing what grief cannot see. Months later, years later, sometimes even after one quiet season of healing, you look back and realize the ending that broke you also spared you. The door that closed kept you from entering a room that would have cost you your peace. The person who left created space for you to return to yourself. The opportunity that disappeared prevented you from building a life on a foundation that was already cracking. This is the difference between losing something and being released from it. Loss says, something valuable was taken from me. Release says, something that could no longer serve my path was removed, even if I did not have the strength to remove it myself. Loss feels like emptiness. Release eventually reveals space. Loss feels like rejection. Release eventually reveals protection. Loss makes you look backward in pain. Release slowly teaches you to look forward with clearer eyes. But at the beginning, both can feel the same. That is why so many people confuse release with punishment. When something ends, the body reacts first. The chest tightens, the stomach sinks, the mind races. The nervous system says, danger. It does not pause to ask whether this ending may be saving you. It only feels separation, and separation often feels like threat. This is why grief can make even an unhealthy thing look precious. Once it is gone, the mind edits the memory. It highlights the sweet moments and hides the heavy ones. It shows you the laughter, but not the anxiety. It shows you the promise, but not the pattern. It shows you what you hoped it could become, but not what it was actually doing to you. Buddhist teachings ask us to see clearly, not only what we loved, but also what we endured. Not only what we wanted, but also what it was costing us. Not only the beauty of what left, but also the burden of what stayed too long. Clear seeing is painful at first because it removes the fantasy, but it is also merciful because it returns you to truth. Sometimes you do not lose a person. You are released from begging to be understood. You are released from explaining your pain to someone who kept stepping on it. You are released from waiting beside a closed heart, hoping it would open just because you loved hard enough. You are released from shrinking your needs so someone else could remain comfortable. At first, it feels like abandonment because the person is gone. Later, it begins to feel like rescue because the pattern is gone too. Sometimes, you do not lose an opportunity. You are released from a path that would have made you successful on the outside and empty on the inside. You are released from a door that looked impressive but required the quiet death of your values. You are released from a future that would have demanded your health, your peace, your family, your self-respect, or your inner truth as payment. At first, it feels like failure because the opportunity closed. Later, it begins to feel like wisdom because you realize not every open door leads to freedom. Sometimes, you do not lose a dream. You are released from the version of yourself that was chasing that dream for the wrong reason. Maybe you wanted it because you needed approval. Maybe you wanted it because you were trying to prove someone wrong. Maybe you wanted it because you thought achievement would finally silence the voice inside you that says you are not enough. When that dream breaks, it hurts deeply, but the break may also reveal the wound that was driving you. And once you see the wound, you can begin to heal in a way that success alone could never have healed you. This is why not everything that leaves us was meant to continue with us. Some things belong to a season, not a lifetime. Some people arrive to awaken something, not to stay forever. Some doors open just long enough to teach you what you truly value. Some desires burn brightly for a while, then fade because your soul is outgrowing them. This does not make the experience meaningless. It only means its purpose was not permanence. The mind often believes that if something mattered, it must last. But life does not work that simply. A conversation can change you and still be brief. A relationship can teach you and still end. A place can shape you and still no longer be home. A dream can guide you for a season and still not be the final road. In Buddhist understanding, everything is conditioned. Everything arises when causes come together, and everything changes when those causes shift. This is not a tragedy, it is the nature of life. The problem begins when the heart demands that every meaningful thing become permanent. That demand turns natural change into personal injury. It makes you believe that because something ended, it failed. But many things complete their purpose by ending. The ending is not always proof that something went wrong. Sometimes the ending is how the lesson finishes. The chapter closes because the teaching has been delivered, even if the heart still wants to reread the same page. Think of a medicine. It may be necessary for a time, but if you keep taking it after its purpose is complete, it may begin to harm you. Some experiences are like that. They heal something, reveal something, awaken something, strengthen something, and then they must pass. But because you remember how they helped you once, you keep trying to hold them forever. You say, "This was good for me." But was it good for who you are becoming now? Was it good for the season you are entering? Was it still nourishing, or were you holding on to it because you were afraid of what life would ask of you next? This is a hard question, but it is a freeing one. There are people you could not have become yourself without meeting, but that does not mean you were meant to walk with them forever. There are places that gave you safety when you needed shelter, but that does not mean you were meant to remain there when your spirit was ready to grow. There are dreams that gave you direction when you were lost, but that does not mean they were the final destination. Release often hurts because it asks you to stop confusing the tool with the temple, the lesson with the lifetime, the stepping stone with the home. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to observe life without immediately turning every change into a story of blame. The mind loves blame because blame gives pain a target. If someone leaves, the mind wants to blame them, blame yourself, blame timing, blame the world. If something fails, the mind wants a villain. But release is sometimes more subtle than blame. Sometimes no one has to be evil for something to end. Sometimes the conditions simply no longer support the continuation. Sometimes two people grow in different directions. Sometimes the dream that once fit becomes too small. Sometimes the path narrows, so you are forced to take another road. This does not mean there is no pain. Pain is real, grief is real, disappointment is real. Buddhism does not ask you to deny them. It asks you not to build a false identity around them. You can say, "This hurts," without saying, "Life is against me." You can say, "I miss what was," without saying, "Nothing good will come again." You can say, "I do not understand this yet," without saying, "This ending has destroyed my future." That difference matters. One allows grief to move through you. The other turns grief into a prison. When you are being released from something, the first sign may be exhaustion, not ordinary tiredness, but a deep inner draining that comes from staying where your spirit is no longer at peace. You may still love the person, but your body feels tense around them. You may still want the dream, but every step feels like self-betrayal. You may still believe the door should open, but forcing it is making you bitter. You may still call it hope, but it no longer gives life to your heart. It only keeps you waiting in pain. Sometimes, release begins before the actual ending. You feel it quietly. The conversation no longer lands the same way. The place that once felt safe begins to feel small. The goal that once excited you begins to feel hollow. The connection that once brought warmth now brings confusion. But because the mind fears change, it argues with these signs. It says, maybe I am overthinking. It says, maybe I should try harder. It says, maybe if I become better, this will feel right again. And yes, there are times when effort is needed, but there are also times when extra effort is only fear refusing to accept what the soul already knows. The body often knows when something is no longer aligned before the mind admits it. There may be a heaviness before meeting someone, a tightness before saying yes, a quiet sadness after getting what you thought you wanted, a sense of shrinking in spaces where you once hoped to expand. These signals are not always dramatic. They can be very soft, but wisdom listens to softness before life has to become loud. Many people wait until something becomes unbearable before they accept release. They wait until the relationship breaks them, the job harms their health, the dream turns into resentment, the habit steals their joy. But life often whispers before it shakes. It gives small signs. It gives discomfort. It gives repeated lessons. It gives inner unease. It gives a lack of peace. When we ignore the whisper, the ending may come more forcefully, not because life is cruel, but because we were unwilling to move when the truth was still gentle. This is why some endings feel sudden, even though they were forming for a long time. The relationship did not collapse in one day. The dream did not fade in one moment. The opportunity did not become wrong overnight. The signs were there, but hope edited them. Fear excused them. Attachment covered them. Then, when the ending finally came, it felt like a shock. But the soul had been receiving warnings quietly for a while. Buddhist practice helps us become honest before life has to be harsh. Through mindfulness, we learn to notice where we are forcing, where we are shrinking, where we are pretending, where we are holding on to an image instead of reality. Mindfulness is not just sitting quietly with closed eyes. It is seeing clearly while life is happening. It is hearing the sentence you keep repeating to yourself and asking, is this true or is this fear? It is noticing the body's tension and asking, what am I refusing to admit? It is watching your own attachment and asking, am I protecting love or am I protecting a fantasy? The difference between losing and being released becomes clearer when you look at what the ending creates over time. Some losses leave pain, but they also open clarity. They bring grief, but also breath. They take away the familiar, but they return your dignity. They remove what you wanted, but they restore what you had been sacrificing. At first, all you see is what is gone. Later, you begin to see what came back. Your sleep, your voice, your self-respect, your creativity, your quiet, your ability to laugh without checking someone's mood, your ability to make choices without fear, your ability to hear your own thoughts again. That is release. It may not feel like a blessing at first. In fact, most releases feel like heartbreak in the beginning. Protection often arrives in a form the ego does not like. The ego wants protection to feel soft, obvious, and pleasant. But sometimes protection feels like disappointment. Sometimes it feels like being denied. Sometimes it feels like being left out. Sometimes it feels like watching something you wanted go to someone else. Sometimes it feels like being forced into a silence you did not choose. Only later do you realize that the thing you begged to keep would have taken more from you than you knew how to give. There is a story many hearts know too well. You prayed for something to stay. You fought for it. You cried over it. You replayed every moment, asking what you could have done differently. Then one day, after enough time passed, you saw the truth. You saw that you were not loved in the way you needed. You saw that you were not respected in the way you deserved. You saw that the path would have trapped you. You saw that the version of you who wanted it was afraid, lonely, or wounded. And suddenly, the ending did not look like life taking from you. It looked like life refusing to let your fear write the rest of your story. This does not mean every painful ending will make sense immediately. Some things take a long time to understand. Some endings remain tender. Some questions do not receive clean answers. But even when you do not fully understand, you can practice trusting that not everything removed from your life is removed to harm you. Some things are removed because they have completed their work. Some because they were never built to carry your future. Some because your deeper self was ready to grow, even if your surface self was still attached. There is also humility in this teaching. It reminds us that we do not always know what is best while we are in the middle of desire. The mind is very convincing when it wants something. It gathers evidence, it builds arguments. It says, "This must be mine." It says, "I cannot lose this." It says, "This is the only way." But the mind often sees only the part it wants to see. It does not see the hidden cost. It does not see the long-term consequence. It does not see who you will become if you keep betraying yourself. It does not see the door waiting behind the door you keep knocking on. Buddhist teachings do not ask us to mistrust our hearts, but they do ask us to purify our seeing. A heart clouded by craving does not see clearly. It sees through hunger. It sees through fear. It sees through old wounds. That is why silence, meditation, patience, and honest reflection matter. They allow the dust to settle. When the dust settles, you may discover that what you thought was a loss was actually a removal of confusion. You may discover that what you thought was abandonment was actually the end of a cycle. You may discover that what you thought was failure was actually the collapse of a false path. Some endings are protection from repetition. Life may remove something because you keep using it to repeat an old wound. You keep choosing people who make you prove your worth. You keep chasing opportunities that make you feel valuable only when you are exhausted. You keep entering places where your voice becomes smaller. You keep calling familiar pain home because unfamiliar peace feels strange. Then one day, the pattern breaks. It hurts because it interrupts what you know, but it also saves you from living the same lesson forever. This is why release can feel like withdrawal. Even when something was unhealthy, losing it can still hurt because the nervous system became used to it. If chaos was familiar, peace may feel empty at first. If chasing was familiar, stillness may feel boring. If proving yourself was familiar, being accepted without struggle may feel suspicious. So when life releases you from an old pattern, do not be surprised if part of you wants to run back. That does not always mean the old thing was right. It may only mean your body has not yet learned how to feel safe in freedom. Freedom can feel lonely before it feels peaceful. The space after release can feel too quiet. You may miss the drama because drama kept your mind occupied. You may miss the chase because the chase gave you direction. You may miss the pain because pain became part of your identity. This is why the sacred work after an ending is not to fill the space too quickly. If you rush, you may replace one chain with another. You may find a new person, a new obsession, a new plan, a new distraction, not because it is right, but because silence feels uncomfortable. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to sit with the space, to let the heart settle, to let the mind stop shaking, to let the body learn that emptiness is not death. In that space, you begin to meet yourself without the noise of what you were clinging to. You ask, what was I giving away to keep that? You ask, what did this ending return to me? You ask, what did I ignore because I was afraid to let go? These questions are not meant to trap you in the past. They are meant to extract wisdom from it so you do not repeat it unconsciously. When something leaves, do not only ask why it left, ask what it revealed. Did it reveal where you were too dependent? Did it reveal what you truly need? Did it reveal a lack of boundaries? Did it reveal your strength? Did it reveal that you had been surviving instead of living? Did it reveal that your peace had been missing for a long time? Every ending carries information. If you only grieve what is gone, you may miss what the ending is teaching. This is how pain becomes wisdom, not by pretending it did not hurt, but by refusing to let it be wasted. There is a quiet maturity in being able to bless what has completed its role, not immediately, not artificially, but eventually. You may one day say, "Thank you for what you taught me, and I release what you can no longer be in my life." That is not weakness, that is inner freedom. It means you are no longer demanding that the past become different before you allow yourself to move forward. It means you are no longer trying to force an expired season to produce new fruit. It means you have stopped asking a closed chapter to explain your whole life. Some people stay emotionally tied to what left because they believe releasing it means admitting it never mattered. But release does not erase meaning. It honors meaning without demanding permanence. You can say, "This mattered and it is over." You can say, "I loved this and I am letting it go." You can say, "This shaped me and I do not need to carry it forever." These sentences are painful, but they are also clean. They allow love and truth to exist together. Not every ending needs to be hated. Not every person who leaves needs to become an enemy in your story. Not every closed door needs to be cursed. Sometimes bitterness is just attachment wearing armor. It keeps you connected to what hurt you by giving you a reason to keep thinking about it. But peace does not require you to hate what ended. Peace asks you to stop feeding the bond through resentment. You can hold people accountable in your mind. You can remember the truth. You can protect yourself. But you do not have to keep drinking poison just to prove the wound was real. In Buddhist practice, compassion includes yourself too. If you are grieving an ending, do not shame yourself for taking time. Do not say, "I should be over this." Do not compare your healing to someone else's. The heart releases in layers. First, it releases the physical presence. Then, it releases the hope. Then, it releases the story. Then, it releases the identity built around the story. Each layer takes patience. Some days you will feel free. Other days, an old memory will pull you back. That does not mean you are failing. It means the mind is learning a new path. Be gentle, but be honest. Gentleness without honesty becomes avoidance. Honesty without gentleness becomes cruelty toward yourself. You need both. You need the softness that says, "This hurts," and the clarity that says, "I cannot return to what was harming me." You need the compassion that allows tears, and the wisdom that does not turn tears into a reason to reopen the door. This balance is part of letting go. The more you practice, the more you will recognize release when it is happening. You will stop seeing every ending as proof that life is against you. You will start asking, what is this making room for? Not in a shallow way, not as a quick slogan, but as a deep inquiry. What part of me is being returned? What illusion is being removed? What strength is being awakened? What truth can no longer be ignored? What future would I have missed if this had stayed? Sometimes the answer is not another person or another opportunity. Sometimes what the ending makes room for is a different version of you, a calmer you, a wiser you, a you who no longer begs for crumbs, a you who can stand in silence without falling apart, a you who can choose peace even when desire is still speaking, a you who understands that being released from something is not the same as being rejected by life. And this is where the teaching becomes deeply personal. Nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by, but not everything that enters your life is meant to continue with you. Some things come to awaken your discernment. Some come to expose your attachment. Some come to teach forgiveness. Some come to teach boundaries. Some come to show you your own hunger. Some come to prepare you for a deeper peace you would not have chosen if comfort had remained. So when something ends, Pause before you call it punishment. Let the pain speak, but do not let pain become the only narrator. Let time reveal what emotion cannot. Let your body rest. Let your mind clear. Let reality show you whether the ending took life from you or returned life to you. You may discover that the thing you called loss was a doorway. You may discover that what you called failure was protection. You may discover that what you called abandonment was the beginning of coming home to yourself. And if you are in that space right now, where something has just left and you cannot yet see the blessing, you do not have to force understanding. You do not have to smile before your heart is ready. You do not have to call it good while it still feels unbearable. Just take the next breath. Let the truth unfold slowly. Let the ending be an ending before you rush to explain it. Sometimes wisdom does not arrive as a loud answer. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet morning when you realize you no longer miss the cage just because it once felt familiar. That is the mercy hidden inside release. It may hurt at first, but it does not come to destroy you. It comes to separate you from what your fear could not release, from what your attachment kept defending, from what your future could not carry. And one day, when enough time has passed, you may look back at the very thing you cried over and whisper, "I understand now. I was not only losing something, I was being set free." Because the path meant for you cannot fully open while you are still chained to what has completed its time. The hands must empty, the heart must soften, the eyes must clear. And when life removes what you could not put down, it may not be punishment at all. It may be grace arriving in a form your wounded heart did not yet know how to recognize. And after seeing that some endings are not punishments but quiet forms of release, we now have to look at one of the most difficult truths on the path of letting go. Sometimes the thing we believe life removed from us was not truly meant for us in the first place. Sometimes what made it feel so powerful was not destiny, but desire. Sometimes the heart wants something so badly that the mind begins to call it a sign, a calling, a blessing, a soul connection, a once-in-a-lifetime chance. And because the feeling is deep, we assume it must be true. But Buddhist wisdom asks us to slow down and ask a more honest question. Is this desire leading me into peace, or is it creating attachment inside me? There is a kind of wanting that feels almost holy when you are inside it. It takes over your thoughts. It colors your day. It gives meaning to small details. A message feels like proof. A delay feels like a test. A coincidence feels like destiny. A memory feels like a promise. The mind begins connecting everything together as if life is trying to confirm what the heart already wants. And this can be dangerous because when desire becomes loud enough, it stops asking for truth and starts looking only for evidence. That is how desire disguises itself as destiny. It does not come wearing a warning sign. It does not say, "I am attachment and I am here to disturb your peace." No. It comes softly. It says, "This is different." It says, "You have never felt this way before." It says, "Maybe this is the thing you have been waiting for." It says, "Do not let go, because if you let go, you may lose the one thing life sent for you." And because the heart is tender, because the mind is tired of waiting, because the soul wants meaning, you believe it. But not every deep desire is a deep truth. Not every strong pull is alignment. Not every intense feeling is wisdom. Sometimes the strength of a desire only shows the size of the hunger behind it. A person who has been lonely for a long time may mistake attention for destiny. A person who has been unseen may mistake admiration for love. A person who has failed many times may mistake one open door for the only door they will ever receive. A person who has lived with rejection may mistake being wanted for being chosen by life. The mind is not always lying on purpose. It is trying to protect you from pain. It is trying to give you a reason to hope, but hope without awareness can become a beautiful trap. Buddhism teaches that desire is not something we should hate. Desire is part of being human. You can desire love, you can desire peace, you can desire growth, you can desire stability, you can desire beauty, purpose, and a meaningful life. The problem is not that desire arises. The problem begins when desire takes control of the mind and says, "I must have this, or I cannot be okay." That is where suffering begins, not in wanting, but in being ruled by wanting. There is a great difference between a desire that points you toward growth and a desire that pulls you away from yourself. A healthy desire may inspire effort, patience, learning, and courage. It gives energy without stealing your center. It may challenge you, but it does not make you blind. An attached desire is different. It makes you restless. It makes you interpret everything according to what you want. It makes you ignore signs. It makes you sacrifice your peace. It makes you treat uncertainty like torture. It makes you believe that not getting this one thing would mean something is wrong with your life. That is why the examination of desire is so important. Buddhism does not say, "Do not want anything." It says, look closely at what wanting is doing to you. Is it opening your heart or tightening your chest? Is it making you kinder or more desperate? Is it helping you become more awake or making you live in fantasy? Is it rooted in love or fear? Is it connected to truth or to a wound that wants to be covered? These questions can feel uncomfortable because they strip desire of its costume. And sometimes when the costume comes off, we realize we were not chasing destiny. We were chasing relief. We wanted someone because we believed their love would finally make us feel chosen. We wanted success because we believed applause would finally silence our insecurity. We wanted a certain life because we believed it would prove we did not waste our years. We wanted a door to open because we believed that if it stayed closed, it would mean life had rejected us. But these are heavy meanings to place on any person, dream, or outcome. No external thing can permanently heal an inner wound that we refuse to meet. This is why desire can become confusing. It attaches itself to something outside you, but its root is often inside you. You think you are longing for that specific person, but you may be longing for safety. You think you are longing for that specific achievement, but you may be longing for worth. You think you are longing for that specific future, but you may be longing for certainty. You think you are longing for that specific answer, but you may be longing for peace. When you do not know the deeper longing, the surface desire becomes exaggerated. It becomes bigger than it really is. It becomes the sun around which your whole life revolves. You start saying, "This must be meant for me," not because you have truly seen it clearly, but because you have attached your emotional survival to it. This is why Buddhist wisdom teaches us to pause before believing the story desire tells. Desire is a storyteller. It can take a small moment and turn it into a prophecy. It can take one kind word and build an entire future. It can take one opportunity and turn it into the only path. It can take one feeling and call it fate. But a feeling is not always a final truth. A feeling is something to observe. It arises. It changes. It intensifies. It fades. It may carry information, but it should not become your master. Have you ever wanted something so badly that you ignored what was obvious? The inconsistency, the lack of peace, the one-sided effort, the way your body felt unsettled, the way your values were being bent, the way your mind kept trying to explain away what your spirit already knew. This is one of desire's strongest tricks. It can make reality look negotiable. It can make you say, "Maybe I am being too sensitive," when you are actually being warned. It can make you say, "Maybe I just need to wait," when you have already been waiting far beyond wisdom. It can make you say, maybe this pain is part of the journey, when the pain is really showing you that you are forcing something that does not bring peace. This does not mean every difficult thing is wrong. Growth can be uncomfortable. Love can require patience. A meaningful path can ask for discipline. But there is a difference between difficulty that strengthens you and difficulty that empties you. There is a difference between a challenge that grows your wisdom and a struggle that keeps you begging for crumbs. There is a difference between a path that requires effort and a path that requires self-abandonment. Desire often blurs these lines because it wants what it wants. That is why the heart must be trained to listen beyond excitement. Excitement is not bad, but it can be unstable. Excitement can come from novelty, mystery, attention, possibility, or fantasy. Peace is deeper. Peace may not always feel dramatic. It may not make your mind race. It may not give you the thrill of chasing. But peace has a quiet honesty to it. It does not need to keep proving itself through emotional highs. It does not constantly pull you between hope and fear. It does not make you feel like you are standing on the edge of a cliff, calling the view beautiful while your body trembles. Desire loves intensity because intensity feels like proof. But intensity can be created by uncertainty. A person who is inconsistent can feel more addictive than someone who is steady, not because the connection is deeper, but because the mind is always waiting for the next drop of reassurance. An opportunity that feels scarce can seem more valuable, not because it is aligned, but because fear of missing out makes it shine brighter. A dream that people admire can seem like your destiny, not because your soul chose it, but because your ego wants recognition. This is where many people mistake emotional activation for spiritual guidance. They think, if I cannot stop thinking about it, it must be meant for me. But sometimes you cannot stop thinking about it because it triggered your insecurity. Sometimes you cannot stop thinking about it because it is unfinished in your mind. Sometimes you cannot stop thinking about it because it gave you a little hope and then withdrew it. Sometimes you cannot stop thinking about it because your nervous system is trying to solve a threat, not because your soul is receiving a sacred message. Buddhist mindfulness helps us separate awareness from obsession. It teaches us to sit with desire without being carried away by it. You can feel the longing and still ask, what is this? You can feel the pull and still watch it. You can feel the ache and still refuse to turn it into a command. This is not suppression. Suppression says, I should not feel this. Mindfulness says, this is what I am feeling and I will see it clearly. That difference matters. What you suppress often returns stronger. What you observe honestly begins to reveal its nature. A useful practice is to ask desire to sit in silence. Do not feed it with fantasy for a moment. Do not replay the scene. Do not build the future. Do not search for signs. Do not argue with reality. Just breathe and let the desire be present without entertainment. If the desire is rooted in truth, it will remain steady without needing constant drama. If it is rooted in attachment, it may become restless, demanding, and afraid. It may start shouting, do something, check again, prove it, hold on, do not lose this. That shouting tells you something. It shows you that fear is sitting underneath the desire. Another way to examine desire is to look at what it asks you to become. A desire aligned with your deeper path will call you into a better version of yourself. More honest, more patient, more courageous, more compassionate, more disciplined, more awake. But a desire rooted in attachment may turn you into someone you barely recognize. You become jealous, anxious, controlling, bitter, secretive, self-neglecting, or constantly afraid. You start making choices that do not match your values. You start accepting less than your dignity deserves. You start calling obsession commitment. You start defending what is harming you because you do not want to face the grief of letting it go. This is one of the clearest signs. If the thing you call destiny keeps requiring you to betray your inner truth, it may not be destiny. It may be desire wearing sacred clothing. What is truly meant for you does not mean it will always be easy, but it will not demand that you lose yourself to keep it. It will not make you smaller and call that love. It will not make you dishonest and call that strategy. It will not make you abandon your peace and call that passion. It will not make you live in constant anxiety and call that proof of depth. There may be struggle, but somewhere inside the struggle, there will be clarity, growth, and a sense that your soul is not being violated. Desire becomes dangerous when it refuses correction. When life shows signs that something is not healthy, desire says, ignore that. When friends speak truth, desire says, they do not understand. When your body feels heavy, desire says, you are just afraid. When the same pain repeats, desire says, maybe next time will be different. And this is how people stay attached to things long after the truth has become visible. Not because they are foolish, but because desire has become part of their identity. To release the desire would feel like releasing the version of themselves that believed in it. There is grief in admitting, maybe I wanted this more than it wanted me. There is grief in admitting, maybe I called it destiny because I was afraid to accept that it was only desire. There is grief in admitting, maybe I was chasing a feeling, not a truth. But this grief is clean. It hurts, but it frees. It removes the fog. It returns your energy to you. Buddhist wisdom does not shame desire because desire can teach us. Every strong wanting points to something within us. If you examine it carefully, it becomes a teacher. It can show you where you feel empty. It can show you what you value. It can show you what you fear. It can show you what wound is still asking for attention. It can show you what qualities you want to cultivate in your own life. The problem is not having desire. The problem is never questioning it. When desire says, I need this person, you may ask, what do I feel through this person that I have not learned to give myself? Maybe it is tenderness. Maybe it is validation. Maybe it is excitement. Maybe it is safety. Maybe it is the feeling of being seen. This does not mean you should never receive those things from others. Human beings need connection. But when you discover the deeper need, you stop making one person the only doorway to it. When desire says, I need this success, you may ask, what do I believe success will finally prove? Maybe you believe it will prove you are not behind. Maybe it will prove your pain was worth it. Maybe it will prove you matter. Maybe it will make people respect you. These are human longings. But if your self-worth is waiting at the finish line, then every step of the journey will be filled with fear. You will not be building from peace. You will be running from shame. When desire says, I need this exact future, you may ask, what feeling am I trying to secure? Maybe you want stability. Maybe you want belonging. Maybe you want relief from uncertainty. Maybe you want to stop feeling like life is random. But the future cannot become a cage just because the present feels uncomfortable. A wise life requires openness. If you become too attached to one picture of how life must unfold, you may miss the blessing that arrives in a different form. This is why the phrase, nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by, must be handled with wisdom. Without wisdom, the mind may use it to keep chasing what it wants. It may say, this desire must be meant for me because I feel it strongly. But with wisdom, the phrase becomes a call to relax the grip and observe what is true. It becomes a reminder that what belongs to your path does not need illusion to survive. It does not need you to ignore your inner warning signs. It does not need you to twist reality until it matches your hope. Destiny, if we use that word, is not proven by desperation. It is not proven by obsession. It is not proven by how much you suffer while chasing something. It is not proven by how long you wait in pain. Something is not more sacred because it hurts more. Sometimes pain is not the price of destiny. Sometimes pain is the signal that attachment has taken over. A peaceful desire has space around it. You can want it, but you can still breathe. You can move toward it, but you can still sleep. You can care, but you can still hear truth. You can be disappointed, but you are not destroyed. You can hope, but you are not enslaved. This kind of desire does not consume the whole sky. It becomes one star among many, beautiful, meaningful, but not the only source of light. An attached desire has no space. It fills the room. It demands constant attention. It turns other parts of life gray. Food loses taste. Work loses focus. Friends become background noise. The body becomes tense. The mind becomes repetitive. Everything becomes about one question, one person, one door, one outcome. When desire becomes this narrow, it is no longer guiding you. It is possessing your attention, and attention is your life. What you keep feeding with your attention grows stronger inside you. If you feed fantasy, fantasy grows. If you feed fear, fear grows. If you feed resentment, resentment grows. If you feed presence, presence grows. Buddhism teaches us to guard the mind not with harshness, but with care. The mind is like a garden. If you let every seed grow unchecked, weeds can take over. Desire is one seed. You must see whether it bears fruit or thorns. This does not mean you must cut off every desire that feels strong. It means you must stop worshipping desire just because it is strong. Some desires need patience. Some need discipline. Some need refinement. Some need to be released. Some need to be transformed. For example, the desire to be loved can become the practice of becoming loving and choosing loving spaces. The desire for success can become the practice of meaningful effort. The desire for certainty can become the practice of trust. The desire for recognition can become the practice of seeing your own value before the world applauds. In this way, desire becomes fuel for awakening instead of attachment. You do not have to destroy the energy. You learn to purify it. You ask, how can this longing lead me back to wisdom? If you long for love, let it teach you not to abandon yourself. If you long for purpose, let it teach you discipline without self-hatred. If you long for peace, let it teach you to stop choosing chaos just because it feels familiar. If you long for a new life, let it teach you to release the habits that belong to the old one. The Buddha spoke often about craving as a source of suffering. Craving is not simple wanting. Craving is the thirst that says, this must satisfy me completely. But life cannot satisfy craving completely because craving is endless. It always moves. When it gets one thing, it wants security that the thing will stay. When it gets security, it wants more pleasure. When it gets pleasure, it fears losing pleasure. So craving does not end by feeding it. It ends by understanding it. This is why getting what you want does not always bring the peace you expected. You may receive the relationship and still fear abandonment. You may receive success and still feel not enough. You may receive money and still fear loss. You may receive admiration and still feel unseen. The thing arrives, but the craving continues because the root was never the thing itself. The root was the restless belief that peace depends on something outside you becoming permanent. When you see this clearly, you stop asking desire to do what only awareness can do. Desire may point, awareness must guide, desire may energize, wisdom must choose. Desire may open a door, discernment must decide whether to enter. If desire drives without wisdom, your life becomes a series of emotional emergencies. You chase what shines. You attach to what excites you. You call every pull a sign. You confuse movement with progress and longing with truth. Discernment is the quiet strength that asks, what is this really? It does not rush. It does not flatter the ego. It does not panic. It looks at the whole picture, not just how something feels in the beginning, but what it produces over time. Not just what someone says, but how they live. Not just what a dream promises, but what it requires. Not just how strong the longing is, but what the longing does to your mind, body, and character. This is important because desire often lives in the future. It says, one day this will make me happy. It says, when this happens, I will be complete. It says, when this person chooses me, I will rest. It says, when this dream works, I will feel worthy. But mindfulness brings you back to the present and asks, what is happening now? Not in the fantasy, not in the hope, not in the edited version. Now. Is there peace now? Is there honesty now? Is there mutual effort now? Is there integrity now? Is there growth now? Is there kindness now? The present moment reveals what fantasy hides. You may discover that your desire is attached to a future that reality is not supporting. You may discover that you are in love with potential, not presence. You may discover that you are chasing an image, not truth. You may discover that what you call destiny has been built mostly from imagination, longing, and fear of loss. This discovery can hurt, but it also gives you your life back. Because once you see clearly, you can stop pouring your energy into a picture that keeps refusing to become real. At the same time, you may discover that a desire is wholesome. It brings steadiness. It deepens your compassion. It asks you to grow without violating your peace. It remains even after the emotional storm settles. It does not require fantasy to stay meaningful. It aligns with your values. It allows you to be honest. It respects your dignity. It gives you energy without stealing your soul. Such a desire can be honored, but even then, Buddhism would still invite you to hold it lightly, because even wholesome desires must move through an impermanent world. To hold a wholesome desire lightly is not to care less, it is to trust more. You give effort, but you do not grip the result. You love, but you do not possess. You prepare, but you do not panic. You walk toward what calls you, but you remain awake to what life reveals along the way. You let desire be part of your path, not the ruler of your path. This is the middle way. Not rejecting life, not clinging to life, not becoming cold, not becoming consumed. Walking with open eyes and open hands. The more you practice this, the more you stop being fooled by the emotional disguises of attachment. You begin to recognize when desire is making you dramatic. You notice when you are turning small signs into big stories. You notice when you are ignoring your peace because the fantasy feels too sweet. You notice when your desire is not really love, but hunger, not really purpose, but pressure, not really guidance, but fear trying to secure itself. And when you notice, you do not have to hate yourself. You simply return. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to what is true today. Return to your values. Return to the part of you that does not need to chase illusion to feel alive. This returning is the practice, not being perfect, not never wanting, not never getting attached, but waking up again and again before desire turns your life into a cage. There is great peace in being able to say, I want this, but I will not let wanting blind me. There is great strength in saying, I feel drawn to this, but I will still watch what it does to my peace. There is great freedom in saying, I hoped this was meant for me, but I am willing to see the truth if it is not. These are not weak sentences. They are the words of someone who has begun to trust wisdom more than craving. Because sometimes what is truly meant for you is not the object of your desire. Sometimes what is meant for you is the awakening that comes when the desire is examined, the self-respect you gain when you stop chasing, the clarity you find when you stop fantasizing, the peace that returns when you stop forcing signs, the maturity that grows when you can want something and still choose truth. And maybe this is one of the most compassionate teachings on letting go. Life is not asking you to kill your heart, it is asking you to clean your seeing, to want with awareness, to hope with humility, to love with wisdom, to dream without making your soul a prisoner, to let desire pass through the light of truth before you call it destiny. So when your mind says, "I must have this because I want it so deeply," pause. Place a little space between the wanting and the believing. Ask what the desire is producing inside you. Ask whether it brings peace or restlessness, truth or fantasy, dignity or self-abandonment, openness or obsession. Ask whether you are moving from love or from fear. Ask whether you are listening to life as it is, or only to the story your craving has written. And if the answer reveals attachment, do not be ashamed. Be grateful that you can see. Seeing is the beginning of freedom. Once you see the disguise, desire loses some of its power to control you. You can hold it gently. You can learn from it. You can release what is false within it. You can keep the wisdom and let go of the chain. Nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by, but desire may try to convince you that everything you deeply want is meant for you. This is why awareness is necessary. What belongs to your path will not require blindness. It will not need fantasy to survive. It will not ask you to ignore your peace. It will meet you in truth, not just intensity. And if something cannot remain when seen clearly, then perhaps it was never destiny. Perhaps it was desire asking to be understood, healed, and finally released. And after learning that desire can disguise itself as destiny, we have to face the painful thing that happens when desire refuses to listen to reality. Because sometimes the heart wants something so badly that it does not only call it destiny, it begins to fight for it, even when every sign is saying, "This door is not opening for you." You knock once and it stays closed. You knock again and it still does not move. You push harder, explain more, wait longer, sacrifice deeper, and tell yourself that persistence is faith. But there is a kind of persistence that comes from wisdom, and there is a kind that comes from fear. One strengthens you, the other slowly empties you. There is a pain that comes from trying to force a door that was never yours. It is not only the pain of rejection, it is the pain of losing yourself while trying to be accepted by what keeps resisting you. It is the pain of giving your energy to a path that does not give life back to you. It is the pain of standing in front of one closed door for so long that you no longer notice the quiet path opening behind you. And this is where many people suffer without understanding why they are so tired. They think they are tired because life is hard. They think they are tired because they have not tried enough. They think they are tired because the dream is big, the person is complicated, the opportunity is difficult, or the timing is slow. But sometimes the deeper truth is this: you are tired because you are pushing against what is not opening naturally. You are spending your spirit on resistance and calling it devotion. Buddhist wisdom does not teach us to quit every time life becomes difficult. That would not be wisdom. Many good things require patience, discipline, courage, and effort. A seed does not become a tree in one day. A calm mind is not built in one sitting. A meaningful life is not shaped without practice. But there is a difference between effort that meets growth and effort that meets constant resistance. There is a difference between a path that challenges you and a path that keeps rejecting your presence. There is a difference between a door that needs patience and a wall you keep mistaking for a door. This difference matters because the ego hates to stop pushing. The ego says, if I walk away now, it means I failed. It says, if I stop trying, it means they won. It says, if this does not open, then all my effort was wasted. But Buddhist wisdom asks us to see more clearly. Walking away from what is not aligned is not always failure. Sometimes it is the first honest decision you have made in a long time. Sometimes the wasted life is not the life that stops forcing. It is the life that keeps pushing because it is too proud, too afraid, or too attached to admit that the path has already ended. Forcing a door can take many forms. It can look like chasing a person who keeps giving you confusion instead of care. It can look like applying all your strength to a dream that no longer matches your inner truth. It can look like begging for a place in spaces that keep making you feel small. It can look like trying to prove your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It can look like staying in a situation because you have already invested so much time, even though your spirit has been quietly saying, "This is not home anymore." And the danger is that forcing does not always feel wrong at first. In the beginning, it can feel heroic. It can feel passionate. It can feel like dedication. You tell yourself, "I am not giving up." You tell yourself, "Great things take time." You tell yourself, maybe this is a test. And sometimes, yes, patience is needed. But if you are honest, there is often a difference in the body. Wise patience may be difficult, but it still has breath inside it. Fearful forcing feels tight. It feels frantic. It feels like your whole peace depends on one thing finally changing. When you are forcing a door that was never yours, your self-worth begins to suffer quietly. At first, you may not notice it. You may only think, "I need to try harder." But after a while, the repeated resistance begins to speak to your identity. You start asking, "Why am I not enough?" You start thinking, "What do I need to become so this person will choose me?" You start wondering, "What is wrong with me that this opportunity does not open?" The closed door becomes a mirror, and because you are hurting, you start seeing your reflection wrongly. This is one of the most painful effects of chasing what keeps resisting you. You begin to confuse the door's refusal with your value. You think because someone does not love you properly, you are difficult to love. You think because one path does not open, you are not capable. You think because one place does not receive you, you do not belong anywhere. But a locked door is not always a judgment of your worth. Sometimes it is simply not your door. A mango seed does not fail because it cannot grow in frozen ground. The seed may be alive, full of possibility, full of sweetness, but the ground is wrong. If that seed could think like we do, it might say, "Why am I not growing? What is wrong with me? Why does this soil reject me?" But the problem is not always the seed. Sometimes the conditions are not right. Sometimes the place cannot receive what you carry. Sometimes the person cannot honor what you offer. Sometimes the opportunity cannot hold the kind of life your soul is trying to build. This is why forcing can damage self-worth. It makes you keep presenting your value to what has no capacity to recognize it. If you keep trying to make a stone drink water, you may begin to believe your water is useless, but the water is not useless. The stone is simply not thirsty. In the same way, your love is not worthless because someone cannot receive it. Your gift is not small because one door does not open. Your effort is not meaningless because one path does not respond. You must learn to separate your worth from the places that cannot welcome it. Buddhist wisdom teaches right effort, not desperate effort. Right effort has awareness. It knows when to continue and when to stop. It knows when persistence is noble and when persistence has become attachment. It knows that effort should not be a form of self-harm. You do not prove your strength by bleeding against the same wall forever. Sometimes strength is the humility to step back and ask, is this resistance teaching me discipline, or is it showing me direction? That question can save years of your life. Some resistance is a teacher. It asks you to become stronger, clearer, more patient, more skillful. For example, learning a craft may be hard, but the difficulty grows your ability. Healing may be painful, but the pain returns you to yourself. A meaningful relationship may require honest conversations, but both people are present and willing. This kind of resistance has movement inside it. It does not keep you trapped in the same wound. It may be slow, but something is growing. But some resistance is not a teacher. It is a boundary. It is life saying, "Not this way." It does not produce growth. It produces exhaustion. It does not deepen wisdom. It deepens insecurity. It does not invite mutual effort. It makes you carry the whole weight alone. You keep pushing, but nothing becomes healthier. You keep explaining, but nothing becomes clearer. You keep waiting, but nothing becomes more honest. You keep sacrificing, but nothing becomes more peaceful. That is not a test of faith. That is a sign to stop confusing struggle with alignment. One of the reasons people force closed doors is because they are afraid of what it will mean to start again. Starting again can feel humiliating. It can feel like going back to zero. It can feel like admitting that all those months or years of effort did not lead where you hoped. But starting again is not always going backward. Sometimes it is returning to the path your fear made you leave. Sometimes it is stepping out of the hallway where you have been stuck. Sometimes it is choosing movement over pride. There is a hidden pride in forcing. It says, "This must work because I chose it." It says, "This must be mine because I invested in it." It says, "This must open because I have suffered too much for it not to." But life does not always reward suffering with the outcome we demand. Suffering alone does not make a path right. Time invested does not always mean you should continue. Pain endured does not always mean the thing is sacred. Sometimes pain is just the cost of refusing to turn around. This is difficult to accept because the mind hates wasted effort. It would rather keep investing in the wrong thing than admit the investment has already hurt enough. This is called the trap of, "I have come too far to stop." But Buddhist wisdom would ask, if the road is leading deeper into suffering, does walking longer make it wiser? If you realize you are walking in the wrong direction, the answer is not to walk faster. The answer is to stop, breathe, and turn with humility. Turning is not weakness. Turning is intelligence. There are people who force emotional doors. They chase people who keep choosing distance, confusion, or half-hearted presence. They keep explaining their worth. They keep trying to become easier to love. They study the other person's moods like a sacred text. They wait for little moments of affection as if small crumbs can feed a starving heart. And each time the door almost opens, they feel hope again. But then it closes, and the cycle begins. This kind of chasing drains the spirit because it keeps the heart in a state of waiting, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be seen, waiting for consistency, waiting for the apology, waiting for the message, waiting for the change. And while you are waiting, life passes. Your joy becomes dependent on someone else's small movements. Your peace becomes tied to their attention. Your days become shaped by their absence. This is not love in its clean form. This is longing mixed with self-abandonment. Buddhist teachings invite us to look at what a pattern produces. Not what it promises, not what it once was, not what it could become in a perfect world, but what it produces now. Does it produce kindness? Does it produce clarity? Does it produce mutual care? Does it produce peace? Does it produce growth? Or does it produce anxiety, obsession, confusion, and a shrinking sense of self? The fruit reveals the root. A tree of confusion will not keep giving you peace just because you water it with hope. There are also people who force professional doors. They remain in work, goals, or spaces that keep violating their values because they believe one day it will all be worth it. They ignore their health. They ignore the quiet loss of joy. They ignore the bitterness growing inside them. They tell themselves, this is ambition. But sometimes ambition is only fear wearing a suit. Fear of being ordinary, fear of disappointing people, fear of starting over, fear of being seen as unsuccessful, fear of not proving your worth. A career path can be difficult and still aligned, but if the path demands the death of your inner life, you must examine it. If every step forward requires you to become less honest, less kind, less alive, less present, less yourself, then what are you really gaining? A door that opens only after you abandon your soul is not an opening. It is a trade, and some trades cost too much. There are people who force spiritual doors too. They try to make life give them signs. They meditate not to become aware, but to force an answer. They pray not to surrender, but to control the outcome with holy language. They call their obsession faith. They call their impatience devotion. They call their refusal to accept reality trusting the process. But true spirituality does not make you more blind. It makes you more honest. It does not help you avoid truth. It gives you courage to face it. Buddhist practice is not about bending reality to match desire. It is about seeing reality clearly enough that desire no longer deceives you. If a door remains closed after honest effort, a wise heart does not keep hitting it until the hands bleed. A wise heart listens. It asks, what is life showing me? Not with bitterness, but with attention, because sometimes the closed door is not the message of your failure, it is the message of your redirection. Redirection often begins as frustration. You wanted one path, but another one keeps opening. You wanted one person, but another part of your life needs care. You wanted one opportunity, but a different skill keeps calling you. You wanted one plan, but life keeps placing another road near your feet. The problem is, when you are obsessed with the closed door, you do not see the open path. Your attention becomes imprisoned. You keep facing the wall while the wind is blowing from another direction. This is one of the great losses caused by forcing. Not only do you suffer at the closed door, you become blind to what is available. There may be people who love you more gently, but you do not notice because you are chasing the one who does not. There may be opportunities that fit your gifts better, but you ignore them because they do not match the image you had in your mind. There may be a quieter life trying to form, but you dismiss it because you are addicted to the dramatic version of success. There may be a new self trying to emerge, but you keep dragging the old self back to the same locked entrance. The path that opens naturally may not look impressive at first. That is why many people miss it. It may come quietly. It may not feed the ego. It may not give you the thrill of conquest. It may not look like the story you planned. But it has something the forced door does not have: life. It gives breath. It gives room. It gives small signs of growth. It does not require you to beg for every inch of movement. It may require effort, but the effort does not feel like you are betraying yourself. There is a different feeling when a path is naturally opening. You may still be nervous, but you are not constantly torn apart. You may still have to work, but the work feels meaningful. You may still face delays, but the delays do not destroy your dignity. You may still have questions, but you are not living in emotional emergency. Something in you feels quietly invited, not violently dragged. This is how wisdom begins to distinguish between resistance and redirection. Resistance that belongs to your path strengthens your roots. Resistance that does not belong to your path drains your life force. The first asks for courage. The second demands self-erasure. The first makes you more awake. The second makes you more anxious. The first contains lessons that expand you. The second keeps repeating the same pain with different excuses. To see this clearly, you must stop romanticizing difficulty. Many people were taught that if something is hard, it must be valuable. But not all hard things are holy. Some things are hard because they are wrong for you. Some things are hard because you are forcing them. Some things are hard because they require you to keep ignoring your truth. Effort is beautiful when it serves life. Effort becomes suffering when it serves attachment. Buddhism teaches the middle path, and this applies here too. The middle path is not laziness, and it is not obsession. It is not giving up at the first discomfort, and it is not destroying yourself to prove devotion. It is a wise balance. You show up, you do your part, you act with sincerity, you observe the results, you adjust, you listen, you remain humble enough to learn from resistance. You do not turn your desire into a god. There is freedom in saying, I can try, but I do not have to force. There is freedom in saying, I can knock, but I do not have to break myself at the door. There is freedom in saying, I can love, but I do not have to beg. There is freedom in saying, I can want this, but I will not let wanting blind me to what is true. These are the sentences of someone who is beginning to live from self-respect instead of panic. Self-respect is one of the first things forcing takes from you. It rarely disappears all at once. It leaves in small moments. The moment you explain yourself to someone who has already decided not to understand. The moment you accept less than you need because you are afraid to lose the little you have. The moment you say yes while your whole body says no. The moment you keep waiting for a door that has shown you again and again that it is not opening. Each small betrayal teaches the mind, my peace matters less than this outcome. But every time you stop forcing, you teach yourself a new message. My peace matters. My dignity matters. My energy is sacred. My life is not meant to be spent begging at closed doors. This is not arrogance. This is wisdom. A person with self-respect does not demand that every door open. They simply refuse to measure their worth by the doors that stay closed. Some doors are closed because they are not for your season, some because they are not for your character, some because they would trap you, some because they belong to someone else, some because you are meant to grow elsewhere, some because what you wanted would have fed your ego but starved your soul, some because life is trying to teach you that your path is wider than the one thing you keep staring at. This is why surrender becomes necessary. Not surrender as defeat, but surrender as clarity. Defeat says, I am stopping because I am worthless. Surrender says, I am stopping because I am listening. Defeat collapses. Surrender releases. Defeat is filled with shame. Surrender is filled with quiet strength. When you surrender a forced door, you are not saying, nothing good will happen. You are saying, I am willing to stop demanding that good must come only through this. That willingness opens the mind. It loosens the heart. It allows life to surprise you. It helps you notice what your attachment made invisible. You may begin to see that another path has been waiting quietly. Another friendship, another opportunity, another rhythm, another way to use your gifts, another kind of love, another version of success, another piece you would have missed if the old door had opened. And sometimes life does not show you the next path immediately, because first it must heal the damage caused by forcing. You may need time to rest. You may need time to remember who you were before the chase. You may need time to recover your confidence. You may need time to stop seeing every closed door as proof that you are not enough. This pause is not wasted. It is repair. It is the soul gathering itself back from places where it was scattered. During this pause, the mind may become restless. It may say, "What now?" It may tempt you to run back to the closed door simply because it is familiar. But familiarity is not the same as destiny. Sometimes the old door feels comfortable because you know how to suffer there. You know the rhythm of waiting. You know the language of disappointment. You know the small hope after the big pain. Freedom feels strange because it has no old script. But strange does not mean wrong. It may mean new. This is where mindfulness helps again. It keeps you from returning to a closed door just because silence feels uncomfortable. It teaches you to sit with the ache without obeying it. It teaches you to notice the urge to force and ask, what am I trying not to feel? Often, forcing is a way to avoid grief. If you keep trying, you do not have to mourn. If you keep hoping, you do not have to accept. If you keep pushing, you do not have to stand in the empty space and admit that something may be over. But grief avoided becomes suffering extended. Acceptance is painful in the beginning, but it is cleaner than endless resistance. Acceptance does not mean you like what happened. It means you stop arguing with what is already clear. It means you stop spending your strength trying to turn a closed door into an open one by sheer emotional force. It means you let reality be reality, even when your heart still needs time to catch up. This is one of the deepest lessons in Buddhist letting go. Reality is not your enemy. Your argument with reality is what exhausts you. The door is closed. That is one pain. But the thought, it should not be closed. It cannot be closed. I must make it open. My life is ruined because it is closed, creates many more pains. The first pain is life. The second pain is resistance. When you stop resisting what is clear, you still may grieve, but you are no longer adding suffering on top of pain. There is also humility in accepting that not every door is meant to open through your effort. We are taught to believe that if we work hard enough, love hard enough, pray hard enough, or wait long enough, anything can become ours. But this is not always true. Some things do not belong to us, no matter how deeply we want them. Some people will not choose us, no matter how much love we offer. Some paths will not fit us, no matter how much discipline we bring. Some outcomes will not arrive, no matter how tightly we hold the vision. This does not make life cruel. It makes life larger than our preferences. And because life is larger than our preferences, it can protect us in ways we do not understand. The closed door may be saving you from a room where your soul would have withered. The rejection may be saving you from a relationship where you would have disappeared. The delay may be saving you from success that would have come before your character was ready. The failure may be saving you from an identity built on approval instead of truth. The silence may be saving you from more years of one-sided effort. You do not always see this at once. Often, the mind sees only what it wanted. It does not see what it avoided. It does not see the hidden cost. It does not see the future pain that did not happen because the door stayed closed. This is why trust is necessary. Not blind trust that ignores reality, but deep trust that says, if this door will not open after honest effort, I will not destroy myself here. Honest effort matters. You do not walk away just because something asks you to grow. You do not call every difficulty a sign to quit. You do not use spirituality to avoid discipline. You give your best. You learn. You communicate. You prepare. You practice, you correct what is yours to correct. But after you have done your part, you must observe what life gives back. If there is no mutual movement, no life, no peace, no truth, no opening, then wisdom may be asking you to stop pushing. Stopping is sometimes the bravest thing you can do, because forcing gives the illusion of control. Stopping makes you feel the uncertainty you were running from. But inside that uncertainty, something sacred can happen. You begin to hear yourself again. You begin to notice the birds, the morning, the quiet, the people who stayed, the small opportunities you ignored. You begin to feel how much energy was tied to the closed door. You begin to understand that your life is not as empty as attachment made it seem. The spirit returns slowly. At first, maybe only in small ways, a lighter breath, a better sleep, a moment of laughter that surprises you, a day without checking, a choice made for your own peace, a new interest, a new idea, a small sense of direction. These signs may look simple, but they are powerful. They mean your energy is coming back home. When your energy returns, you can see more clearly. You can look at the closed door without worshipping it. You can look at the new path without dismissing it. You can admit, maybe life was not denying me, maybe life was redirecting me. And when that realization lands, not as a slogan, but as a lived truth, something inside you changes. You stop needing every closed door to become a wound. Some closed doors become teachers, some become protection, some become signs, some become blessings you only understand later. This is how the teaching becomes real. Nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by, but you can exhaust yourself, chasing what was never assigned to your path. You can spend years trying to turn resistance into destiny. You can mistake a locked door for a test of loyalty. You can lose your softness, your confidence, and your joy trying to force life into the shape your fear prefers. But when you stop, when you step back, when you let the door be closed without making it the measure of your worth, you become available to what is actually opening. And what opens naturally may not shout. It may not arrive with drama. It may not look like the thing you were trying to force. It may begin as a quiet pull toward peace, a different direction, a healthier connection, a simpler path, a deeper practice, a version of life that does not require you to fight for every breath. Do not ignore it because it does not look like your old desire. Sometimes the path meant for you feels unfamiliar because you have spent too long struggling at the wrong door. So if you are standing before something that keeps resisting you, pause. Not to give up in bitterness, but to listen with honesty. Ask yourself, is this resistance shaping me or draining me? Is this effort bringing wisdom or destroying my peace? Am I being invited to grow, or am I begging to be allowed where I do not belong? What path have I been unable to see because my eyes have been fixed on this one door? Let those questions work gently in you. Do not rush them. Do not use them to punish yourself. Use them to return to truth. Because the path of letting go is not about becoming careless. It is about becoming clear. Clear enough to know when effort is sacred and when effort has become suffering. Clear enough to know when a closed door is asking for patience and when it is asking for release. Clear enough to stop calling self-abandonment persistence. What is meant for you will not require you to break your spirit to enter it. It may require courage. It may require learning. It may require time. It may ask you to become more honest, more disciplined, more awake. But it will not demand that you spend your life begging at a door that keeps teaching you you are not enough. The right path may challenge your fear, but it will not continuously destroy your dignity. And when you finally stop forcing what was never yours, you may feel sadness first. That is normal. You are not only leaving a door, you are leaving the hope you built around it. You are leaving the version of yourself that believed it had to open. Give yourself compassion there. But do not mistake sadness for a sign that you should return. Sometimes sadness is simply the sound of attachment loosening. Let it loosen. Let the hand open. Let the breath come back. Let the path behind you become visible. Let life show you that the world is wider than the door that would not open. Because what is truly yours does not need you to become a stranger to yourself. It will meet you in a way that allows your spirit to breathe. And the day you stop forcing the wrong door may be the day you finally begin walking toward the one that was quietly waiting for you all along. And after learning that the wrong door can drain your spirit when you keep forcing it open, we now need to clear up one of the biggest misunderstandings about letting go. Because many people hear the words non-attachment and think it means becoming cold. They think it means you stop caring, stop loving, stop trying, stop hoping, stop dreaming, and simply watch life pass by with no feeling in your heart. But that is not Buddhist wisdom. That is emotional shutdown wearing spiritual language. There is a kind of letting go that is not peace at all. It is numbness. It says, I do not care, because caring once hurt too much. It says, I am detached, but really it is afraid to feel. It says, whatever happens, happens, but underneath there is disappointment that has not been healed. True non-attachment is different. It does not close the heart. It cleans the heart. It teaches you how to love without fear owning you, how to work without obsession controlling you, how to hope without becoming desperate, and how to dream without making one outcome the ruler of your peace. This is where the teaching becomes tender, because many people do not cling because they are foolish. They cling because they care. They hold tightly because something matters. They fear losing because they have known loss before. They keep checking, waiting, pushing, and proving because deep inside they are trying to protect something precious. So when someone tells them to let go, it can sound like they are being told to stop loving. It can sound like their heart is being dismissed. It can feel like the pain is being made small. But Buddhist letting go does not make your love small. It makes your love clean. To care with attachment is to say, I need this to happen my way, or I cannot be at peace. To care with wisdom is to say, this matters to me, so I will show up with sincerity, but I will not make my soul a prisoner of the result. That difference may sound simple, but it can change the whole direction of your life. One kind of care makes you anxious, controlling, and afraid. The other makes you steady, honest, and present. Non-attachment does not mean you stop loving someone. It means you stop trying to possess them as the source of your safety. It means you can love them as a human being, not as an answer to all your wounds. It means you can give affection without secretly demanding that they become your guarantee against loneliness. It means you can wish them well, speak truth, build connection, and still remember that your inner peace cannot depend entirely on whether they stay, change, respond, or choose what you want. That is not cold. That is mature. A cold heart says, I do not need anyone. A wise heart says, I value connection, but I will not abandon myself to keep it. A cold heart avoids vulnerability. A wise heart opens, but does not throw away discernment. A cold heart hides behind distance. A wise heart can come close without becoming blind. This distinction matters because many people confuse emotional walls with spiritual freedom. They think they have let go because they no longer react. But sometimes they are not peaceful. They are shut down. You can know the difference by looking at the quality of your heart. If your letting go makes you bitter, hard, proud, or dismissive, it may not be true non-attachment. It may be pain protecting itself. But if your letting go makes you softer, clearer, calmer, more compassionate, and more honest, then you are moving closer to wisdom. True letting go does not remove your humanity. It restores it. Buddhist wisdom teaches the middle way. The middle way is not clinging, and it is not indifference. It is not drowning in emotion, and it is not pretending you have none. It is standing in the center with awareness. You feel deeply, but you do not let feeling drag you blindly. You care sincerely, but you do not let caring become control. You work faithfully, but you do not let work become self-punishment. You hope gently, but you do not let hope become a chain around your neck. This is very important when it comes to love. Many people believe love means emotional dependence. They think if they are not anxious, they do not care enough. If they are not jealous, they are not serious. If they are not suffering, it must not be deep. But suffering is not the measure of love. Fear is not proof of devotion. Obsession is not intimacy. The depth of love is not shown by how much peace you lose. It is shown by how much truth, kindness, patience, and freedom the love can hold. A love with attachment says, Be who I need you to be so I can feel okay. A love with non-attachment says, I see you clearly, I care for you sincerely, and I will not use you as the only foundation of my life. This kind of love is not weak. It may be the strongest love of all, because it does not come from hunger. It comes from presence. It does not come from trying to fill an empty place through another person. It comes from a heart that is learning to stand on its own feet while still reaching out with tenderness. This also applies to family. Sometimes people cling to family relationships because they believe caring means carrying everything. They take responsibility for everyone's emotions. They fix, rescue, explain, endure, and overgive until they are exhausted. They think, if I stop, it means I do not love them. But love without boundaries can become suffering. Love without wisdom can become self-erasure. Love without inner balance can teach others to depend on your sacrifice rather than grow in their own responsibility. Non-attachment in family does not mean you stop caring about your parents, children, siblings, or loved ones. It means you stop believing you must control their path to prove your love. You can advise without forcing. You can support without rescuing every consequence. You can care without becoming the emotional ground everyone walks on. You can remain kind while still saying, "This is not mine to carry." That sentence can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you were taught that love means endless availability. But sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is stop feeding another person's helplessness with your own exhaustion. This is not selfishness, it is clear compassion. Buddhist compassion is not blind giving. It is not letting yourself be drained and calling it virtue. It is not staying in harmful patterns because you are afraid to disappoint someone. True compassion includes wisdom. It asks, does this help or does it deepen suffering? Sometimes giving helps. Sometimes stepping back helps. Sometimes speaking helps. Sometimes silence helps. Sometimes staying helps. Sometimes leaving helps. Compassion without wisdom can become attachment. Wisdom without compassion can become coldness. The path asks for both. The same truth applies to work and ambition. Non-attachment does not mean you stop working toward your goals. It does not mean you become lazy or passive. It does not mean you say, if it is meant for me, it will happen, while doing nothing. That is not surrender. That is avoidance. Buddhist practice teaches right effort. Right effort means you act with care, discipline, and sincerity, but you do not turn the result into the master of your mind. You can work hard and still be unattached. You can build something meaningful and still sleep at night. You can want a good result and still remain whole if the result takes time. You can prepare, study, practice, apply, create, and improve without hating yourself in the process. This is a very different way of living from the world's usual message. The world often says, if you want something, obsess over it. Chase it, sacrifice everything, tie your worth to it, make it your identity. But Buddhist wisdom asks, what kind of mind are you creating while you chase this? That question matters more than most people think, because you can achieve a dream and arrive there with a damaged spirit. You can get the title, the money, the recognition, the position, and still be unable to rest, because the same attachment that pushed you forward continues to whisper, it is not enough. You must do more. You must protect this. You must not fall. If you build success from fear, success will not remove fear. It will simply give fear more to protect. Non-attachment allows you to work from a cleaner place. You do the work because it is meaningful, useful, aligned, or necessary. You improve because growth is part of the path. You accept correction because your ego is not the center of everything. You fail and learn because failure does not mean your whole being is worthless. You succeed and remain humble because success does not make you superior. You keep walking because the path matters, not only the applause at the end. This is a peaceful strength. It does not make you careless. It makes you more effective. A mind that is not consumed by panic can see better. It can make wiser choices. It can adapt when conditions change. It can hear feedback without collapsing. It can rest without guilt. It can continue without becoming cruel to itself. Many people think attachment makes them more committed, but often it makes them less clear. Panic wastes energy. Obsession narrows vision. Fear creates rushed decisions. Non-attachment gives space, and space allows wisdom to enter. Think about an archer. If the archer is shaking with desperation, thinking, "If I miss this shot, I am nothing," the body tightens, the breath becomes rough, and the aim becomes unstable. But if the archer has trained well, breathes steadily, releases the arrow with focus, and accepts that wind, distance, and conditions also play a role, the shot becomes cleaner. Non-attachment is not refusing to aim. It is aiming without turning the target into your entire identity. This is how we should meet life. Aim well, practice well, love well, speak well, choose well. But do not forget that life includes conditions beyond your control. People have their own minds. Opportunities have their own timing. Bodies have their own limits. The world changes. Outcomes depend on many causes. Your job is not to control every cause. Your job is to bring wisdom to the causes you can touch. This brings us to hope. Hope can be beautiful, but it can also become painful when it hardens into demand. A soft hope says, "May this unfold if it is wholesome." A hard hope says, "This must happen, or I cannot be okay." A soft hope keeps the heart open. A hard hope keeps the body tense. A soft hope leaves room for life to surprise you. A hard hope insists that life must follow one script. Non-attachment does not kill hope. It purifies hope. It makes hope spacious enough to breathe. You can hope for reconciliation, but still accept reality if the other person is not willing. You can hope for success, but still care for yourself while the process is slow. You can hope for healing, but still be gentle with the days when progress feels small. You can hope for a certain future, but still remain open to a different form of goodness. This kind of hope does not trap you. It supports you. Many people are afraid to hope lightly because they think lightness means weakness. They believe if they do not grip the hope tightly, life will not take them seriously. But life is not moved by your tension. Anxiety is not a spiritual payment. Suffering does not force the universe to obey. You do not need to destroy your nervous system to prove that something matters to you. You can care deeply and still breathe. Non-attachment also changes the way you dream. Some people use dreams as escape. They hate their present life, so they build a future in their mind and live there. They say, "One day, everything will be better." But because they are attached to the dream, the present becomes an enemy. Every ordinary day feels like a delay. Every small task feels meaningless. Every moment that is not the dream feels like failure. This makes life heavy because most of life happens in the ordinary moments. A wise dream does not make you despise today. It gives direction to today. It says, "Here is where I am going, and here is what I can practice now." Non-attachment helps you dream without rejecting your current season. You can want growth while still respecting where you are. You can desire more without insulting what you already have. You can move toward the future without abandoning the present. That is a powerful balance. Buddhist teaching brings us again and again to the present moment because the present is the only place where life can actually be lived. Attachment pulls you into a future you are trying to secure or a past you are trying to recover. Non-attachment brings you back here. It says, "This breath, this step, this conversation, this choice, this moment. Not because the future does not matter, but because the future is shaped by how you meet the present. When you are attached to one outcome, the present becomes only a waiting room. You stop living. You only wait to see if you will get what you want. You wait for the call, the result, the apology, the approval, the breakthrough, the sign. Days pass, but you are not inside them. You are always leaning forward, emotionally absent from your own life. Non-attachment returns you to the day you are in. It helps you say, I may not know the ending, but I can still live this chapter well. This does not mean uncertainty will stop feeling uncomfortable. It means discomfort no longer controls every choice. You can feel uncertainty and still cook your meal. You can feel longing and still complete your work. You can feel sadness and still speak kindly. You can feel hope and still rest. You can feel fear and still choose wisdom. This is emotional freedom. It is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to remain conscious while feeling. A person who practices non-attachment is not empty inside. They may feel more deeply than before because they are no longer using control to avoid emotion. They can feel love without grabbing. They can feel grief without drowning. They can feel joy without fearing its end. They can feel desire without becoming a servant to it. They can feel disappointment without turning it into self-hatred. This is not numbness. This is emotional maturity. There is also great humility in non-attachment. It admits, I do not own life. You do not own people. You do not own outcomes. You do not own time. You do not own the future. You are a participant in life, not the owner of all its movements. This may sound frightening at first, but it is also relieving. You do not have to carry the impossible burden of controlling everything. You can release the weight of trying to manage every result. You can do your part and let life do what only life can do. When you stop trying to own outcomes, gratitude becomes easier. Attachment says, how long will this last? What if I lose it? Is it enough? Can I get more? Gratitude says, this is here now. Let me honor it. Attachment cannot enjoy because it is always guarding. Gratitude can enjoy because it is present. This is why non-attachment deepens appreciation. You begin to treasure moments without demanding that they become permanent. You enjoy people without trying to freeze them. You receive blessings without immediately turning them into anxiety. This is a more tender way to live. When you understand impermanence, you do not become cold. You become more awake. You realize that every conversation matters because it will not repeat in exactly the same way. Every season matters because it will change. Every person matters because they are not guaranteed. Every breath matters because it is passing. But instead of gripping, you bow inwardly. You meet life with reverence, not possession. That reverence changes how you handle loss too. If something changes, non-attachment does not prevent grief. It prevents grief from becoming a prison. You may cry, you may miss what was, you may need time, but you do not add the belief that your life is over because one form has passed. You allow pain to move. You trust that the heart can break open without becoming broken forever. You remember that what is real in you is deeper than one ending. This is why non-attachment is closely connected to trust, not shallow trust that says everything will happen exactly as you want. Deeper trust says, whatever happens, I will meet it with awareness. I will not abandon myself. I will not make fear my master. I will continue to grow. This kind of trust is stronger than certainty. Certainty depends on knowing. Trust can stand even when you do not know. And maybe this is what many people are really looking for. They are not only looking for the right person, the right path, the right success, or the right sign. They are looking for a state of being where they no longer feel controlled by every possible outcome. They want to be able to love without panic, wait without suffering, work without self-hatred, and hope without fear tightening around the heart. That state is possible, but it is not found by controlling life. It is found by training the mind. The training begins in small moments. You notice the urge to control, and you breathe before reacting. You notice the need for reassurance, and you offer some kindness to yourself first. You notice the fear of failure, and you return to the work instead of attacking your worth. You notice the mind building a whole future from one moment, and you come back to what is true now. You notice the heart gripping, and you gently open the hand. These small practices may look invisible, but they reshape your inner life. Every time you care without clinging, you weaken the old habit of fear. Every time you act without demanding immediate results, you strengthen patience. Every time you love without possession, you strengthen compassion. Every time you hope without becoming desperate, you strengthen trust. Every time you let a feeling rise and pass without obeying it blindly, you strengthen freedom. The world may not notice this work, but your soul will. There is a quiet power in becoming someone who can hold life gently. You no longer scare away blessings by trying to own them. You no longer miss the present by trying to control the future. You no longer confuse calmness with lack of care. You no longer need suffering to prove love. You no longer need obsession to prove ambition. You no longer need certainty to prove that life is still on your side. This is where the phrase, "nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by," becomes more peaceful. It stops being a sentence you use to cling. It becomes a sentence that helps you relax. It reminds you that you can show up fully without grasping. You can care without making one outcome your God. You can let life unfold without becoming passive. You can trust without sleeping through your responsibilities. You can love the path while still accepting that the path may change form. Non-attachment teaches you to hold both devotion and openness. Devotion says, "I will bring my heart to this." Openness says, "I will not force this to be what it is not." Devotion says, "I will do my part." Openness says, "I will respect what life reveals." Devotion says, "This matters." Openness says, "My peace does not depend on controlling it." Together they create a life of deep care without emotional bondage. This is the balance many people are missing. They either cling because they care, or they disconnect because they are tired of hurting. But there is another way, a way where the heart stays warm and the hands stay open. A way where you can say, "I love this," and also, "I will not lose myself inside it." A way where you can say, "I want this," and also, "I am willing to be guided by truth." A way where you can say, "I hope this works," and also, "I will remain whole if life chooses another road." That is not weakness, that is freedom. And freedom does not make life meaningless, it makes life more beautiful. Because when you are not using people, dreams, and outcomes to complete you, you can finally meet them as they are. You can enjoy a person without demanding that they carry your entire emotional history. You can work on a dream without making every result a punishment. You can receive a blessing without immediately fearing its disappearance. You can walk through life with less grabbing and more gratitude. This kind of life may feel unfamiliar at first. If you have lived through attachment, peace may seem strange. If you have confused anxiety with love, calmness may feel like emptiness. If you have built your identity on chasing, rest may feel like laziness. If you have always measured your worth through outcomes, non-attachment may feel unsafe. Be patient with yourself. The nervous system needs time to learn that peace is not danger. The heart needs time to learn that love does not have to feel like panic. The mind needs time to learn that not controlling everything does not mean everything will fall apart. You are not becoming careless. You are becoming clearer. You are not losing your passion. You are removing the fear that polluted it. You are not giving up on life. You are giving up the belief that life must obey your exact plan before you can be okay. You are not becoming emotionless. You are becoming spacious enough to let emotions move without letting them rule. So when you hear the word non-attachment, do not picture a heart of stone. Think of a heart like the sky. The sky allows clouds to come and go, but it does not become trapped inside any one cloud. Joy comes, sadness comes, love comes, loss comes, hope comes, fear comes. The sky holds them all, but remains wider than them all. This is the kind of heart Buddhism invites us to cultivate, not empty, vast, not cold, spacious, not passive, awake. And in that spacious heart, you can love more beautifully than before, because you are no longer loving from fear. You can work more wisely than before, because you are no longer working from shame. You can hope more gently than before, because you are no longer hoping from desperation. You can dream more freely than before, because you are no longer asking one dream to prove your worth. This is the peace that does not depend on one outcome. It does not mean outcomes do not matter. It means your soul matters more, your awareness matters more, your character matters more, your ability to remain kind, honest, grounded, and awake matters more. If the outcome comes, you receive it with gratitude. If it changes, you meet the change with courage. If it leaves, you grieve without becoming lost forever. If another door opens, you walk with humility. Nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by. But the deeper teaching is this: you do not have to hold life with fear to receive what belongs to your path. You can care deeply and still be free. You can love with your whole heart and still keep your center. You can give your best and still release the result. You can hope for something beautiful and still let peace live inside you today. Because letting go was never meant to make you less human. It was meant to make you less afraid. And when fear no longer controls the way you love, work, hope, and dream, life begins to feel different, softer, lighter, wider. You stop living like every outcome is a final judgment. You stop treating every change as a threat. You stop confusing open hands with an empty heart. And slowly, you discover that the most peaceful people are not the ones who care the least. They are the ones who have learned to care without being chained. They are the ones who can hold something precious and still let it breathe. They are the ones who understand that love is not control, effort is not obsession, hope is not desperation, and surrender is not defeat. This is true non-attachment: a warm heart, clear eyes, open hands, steady breath, a life that cares deeply but no longer bows to fear. And when you finally understand this, something inside you stops fighting life so hard. You stop seeing every closed door as rejection. You stop treating every delay as abandonment. You stop believing that what left was always meant to stay. You begin to see that some losses were protection, some endings were release, some unanswered prayers were mercy, and some things you wanted deeply were only desires wearing the mask of destiny. Nothing truly meant for you will ever pass you by, but that does not mean everything you want must become yours. It means what is truly aligned with your peace, your growth, your wisdom, and your path will meet you in the right form, at the right time, when your heart is ready to hold it without fear. What belongs to your life will not require you to chase until you break, beg until you shrink, or abandon yourself just to keep it. It will not demand that your soul live in panic. So let go, not because you no longer care, but because you are learning to care without being chained. Love with an open heart, work with honest effort, hope with gentle trust. Dream without making one outcome the owner of your peace. If something stays, honor it. If something leaves, learn from it. If something delays, grow through it. And if something refuses to open, trust that life may be guiding you toward a door your fear has not noticed yet. Tonight, release the grip. Release the need to know everything today. Release the belief that one person, one dream, one chance, or one outcome decides your whole future. What is real for your path cannot be destroyed by distance, rejection, silence, or time. And what misses you was never the final answer. If this message touched something deep in you, leave a comment with the words, "I release what is not mine." Let that be your quiet promise to stop forcing what drains your spirit and start trusting the peace that is trying to find you. And if you want more calm teachings like this to help you let go, heal, and walk through life with a lighter heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Your next moment of peace may be one lesson away.